What is up, everyone? What is up? I told y'all I didn't know if I was going to be streaming or not on Tuesday, depending on how I felt. Well, it's Tuesday and I'm here, motherfucker. Anyway, yeah, so some other good news. Yesterday, we were celebrating that I had crossed 5,000 on YouTube, which has been an arduous task of learning a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, when I first started out, I had to learn how to do editing with Kdenlive and a lot of basics and everything, and you can see a progressive growth from my first YouTube video to even the most recent ones, getting slightly better every time, and eventually I'll move to DaVinci Resolve from Kdenlive, maybe, we'll see. But today, we crossed 5,000 on Instagram, and I've only been back on Instagram for 2 weeks. So, it's something. It's something. But yeah, the world's kind of going crazy right now. I don't know if y'all have seen the news, everything that's going on. But let me just put it this way. When Alex Jones is starting to become the voice of reason, you should really be rethinking things. That's how effed up the world is right now, where you can see a video of Alex Jones on his recent stuff, and you're like, that's actually a reasonable take. God, the world has gone crazy. The world's going to hell in a handbasket. But anyway, we're here. And I did order myself a new radio. I already have the TID H9, which is going to become my new daily driver. I'll eventually do a video talking about that, and I was thinking I'm going to pair it along with the new Meshtastic radio that I'm going to be moving over to. So I've been rocking the LilyGo T-Deck for a little over a year now, and it's a great device, do not get me wrong. But the ESP, what is it, S3 or S32? Whatever ESP, it's the ESP32 S3, I think it is. The ESP32 S3 in there, it's plenty capable, but the issue is it is a power drain. So that entire device will at most last about a day. Like, if you have it constantly on Meshtastic mode, it'll last about a day. So that's no bueno for a lot of the things I'm trying to do. So I did happen to find the LilyGo T-Echo Plus. And the T-Echo was the device I used to use. The only reason I moved away from that device was the battery on it was less than adequate, that I'd still have to charge it for at least every day and a half, 2 days, and there was the e-ink screen and everything there. I mean, it was an alright device. What's up, Prisms? It's going. But yeah, the T-Echo Plus, the advantage of it is it's the same power efficient chip that was in the T-Echo that I liked, but they have bumped it from an 850 milliamp battery to a 2400 milliamp hour battery. And then they also added a like a carabiner built into it, so you can like literally just clip it onto your bag. So it's like perfect, what I'm looking for. Just clip onto the bag, and it was lasting, like I said, about day and a half, 2 days under decent Meshtastic use. With 850 milliamp, and if they bump that all the way to 2400, oh yeah, that's a perfect little Meshtastic device for my needs, and it's only about like $70, so that device should be here in a couple of weeks. I had to order it direct from the LilyGo store. You could order it from Amazon, but it was kind of like going to take just as long. And I can't seem to find where my original LilyGo T-Echo is. I need to start organizing a lot of my electronics better, because I know there's a T-Echo around here somewhere, along with multiple other Meshtastic devices. I'll probably start putting all that stuff in the ham shack all together with the radio stuff. Because, like, you know, looking in my box of goodies here, you got a LoRa 32. What is this? The Yeah, Heltec V3. I got a Heltec V3 here. That's perfectly in good shape, ready to be used. Oh, look at that! I got another Heltec V3! I have, like, so many electronics around here, it's not even funny. Like, just random things where I'm like, oh, that's something I could use. The keyboard cleaning. Here's a couple of, like, 1 terabyte, S3 drive, SSD drives. You know, USB-C. So, yeah. Give me your Caden live settings or the Kube in the Tibet to get it. Oh, yeah. I will have to send those to you. And these are my eMMC programmers. Oh, shit. That was the Pine 64 USB breakout. I think I was going to give that to one of my buddies at my local Defcon group. When I find it. Well, guess what? I found it. Oh, look, you even have, like, the data blocker over here. You know, also known as the USB condoms. Basically what that is it's just cutting off the data connections and only allowing power through. So, yeah, there's a bunch of random stuff. That's just 2 drawers. I heard your new company was flying me out from London as a business expense for SWE at Defcon. Rumor has it. I wish, but they're cheap bastards. Hell, motherfuckers would, they fought me for like 2 months to expense $275 on 2 different conferences that were local. Anyway. Just lost the job because I messed up API design during an interview. Ooh. That's unfortunate. I think if anything deserves a shot, a whiskey, to be clear. Not in the head. It's that. But it's alright. Let me put it this way. When one door closes, another one opens. I've had... Okay, in all honesty, out of all the jobs I've actually ever interviewed for, I've only been turned down once, but that was during my senior security engineer interviews for the job that I had now, and there's one other job, and it was like I already had an offer, so this isn't really one-to-one. But, you know, I get it. You're bummed out that you didn't get the position that you wanted, but the right one will come along, and if anything, take this lesson as an opportunity for you to learn from your mistakes. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that as in, failure gives you the opportunity to have a learning lesson. It sucks. I mean, yeah, you failed a job that, you know, you were getting an interview because things happen. But, I will have to tell you I've learned more from failure than I have success. You just need to spam buzzwords within a reasonable scope of each other. Have you talked about Claude Mythos today, or don't talk about that here? I don't even know which one that is. I've been so busy with my head up my ass on other projects. I was yelling about, AirLocker earlier at work, among other things. Oh yeah, I got the new 2600 magazine. Did not bring that down here. Could have gone over that. Oh well, we can save that for tomorrow. You like the sound of a USB code. Thoughts on master's degree for someone already in the industry concerned about job market. So here's the honest truth. I'm in the middle of trying to get my bachelor's as well, and I've been in the industry already. There is nothing a bachelor's degree is going to teach me. If anything, I've gone through WGU's program, and this is by no means a knock on WGU. It's just it's a symptom of the entire system of education as a whole in terms of cybersecurity. I'm not learning anything from it. What I am going through this with the mentality of, this is a checkbox for HR. That's all I'm looking at it as. So I'm pursuing a potential master's degree as well myself, potentially in the future. But at least right now I'm looking to just get the bachelor's degree because I know for a fact I have been denied many opportunities just because I don't have the fancy pieces of paper. It's dumb. It really is dumb. Because, like, you're just wasting more time and money going to school. And you also have the other problem where, on the converse of that, a lot of people are going into college thinking that they're going to learn everything they need to know about cybersecurity to be in the field. But the honest truth is, in the grand scheme of things, you don't learn jack squat. That's the unfortunate reality of it. And I've dealt with so many people that are more than qualified, but don't have the pieces of paper and have a tough time getting jobs. And then on the converse, I've dealt with basically what are kids just entering the field that think they know everything, but don't know squat. And they think their degree is all that. Let me put it this way. I don't really respect most people in most fields. There are very few exceptions to this that go around waving their degree as somehow that they're a qualified person for this. Because at a certain point, you've been in the field long enough, you should be way above your degree. Like, you know, the people that go around, there's a particular, shall we say, streamer that they wave around their political science degree as if that somehow means anything in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, you sat down in schools, you learned about different functions of things, but that doesn't necessarily translate into understanding the complex nuances of things that develop on a day-to-day that were not in the textbooks that you were learning in that day in class. And I say that as someone that originally wanted to go down the track of political science until I woke up and said, there ain't jack shit you can do with a political science degree. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people with political science degrees. That was a whole tangent we didn't need to go down, but I did with ADHD. Hello. Welcome to my stream. But the point being is all a degree means in terms of going to college. Yeah, like psychology majors. That's another one. Psychology, political science, a lot of people with liberal arts degrees. Hell, a lot of people that have English or any other like degree where you're going to sit back and be like, what can you do with that degree? I can go work in a coffee shop. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can do at least something with a psychology degree, but you usually have to go higher up. But the point being that I kept trying to go down before I keep getting on other tangents is that a college degree, much like certifications, both basically just signal you are trainable. That's all it means in the grand scheme of things. I know people who have gone into IT and cyber, been in there for many years, and don't even have an IT or cyber degree. My dad was actually one of them. He had a bachelor's in mathematics and, was it aerodynamic engineering or something like that? Either way. The point being, yeah, like, degrees really don't mean much of anything other than they signal that you're trainable and that they are a checkbox for HR. It's stupid. But we have to jump through that hoop because a lot of us have dealt with a system that's been so indoctrinated that you have to have a college degree in order to be successful. And I'm not saying, like, that isn't true for every degree. Like, let me put it this way. There are certain fields, like medicine, I totally agree with. They need to go through that process. Is going through residency and all that as a doctor brutal? Absolutely. Is becoming a lawyer brutal, having to pass the bar and everything? Absolutely. But I think those are like two different fields where I'm like, it is a brutal field to go through to get approved and licensed and everything for that. But those are both fields you don't really want to have someone F up in heavily. You get what I'm saying? That's my point of where I'm going at. Sorry, When the barn door opens, it means to check your flyer, the cows come loose. In similar situation, 10 years as sysadmin, no degree, love it. Yeah, I'm only working on my cybersecurity degree now just for a checkbox. I'm not learning anything new. In fact, I'm now in classes where I've talked to teachers and I've taught them things. But that's the nature of the beast when you're working in the field. In fact, there's a saying that your students should... A teacher should learn more from their students than the students learn from the teacher. At least in my religion, that's something. But, yeah. In similar situation... Okay. Can't seem to land an interview. 3 years cyber and handful of certs. Any advice? Have you had a professional look over your resume for it to actually be ATS optimized? Because everyone's going through AI and application tracking systems, and that's the one thing a lot of people look over. It may cost you anywhere from $100 to $200, but I had someone do that for my degree. The other thing is, okay, are you you're applying to jobs? Are you going out and networking? Are you going out looking up, hey, there's this meetup for cybersecurity. Hey, there's this meetup for IT professionals, or, you know, coffee and coding or things like that on InfoSec Maps, Eventbrite, meetup.com. Are you mingling with other professionals where you build a network that can help you actually, you know, find different jobs out there? Because if not, that is the one thing a lot of people are missing. An ATS optimized resume. And a lot of people say, oh, just run your resume through ChatGPT or Claude. That'll work to a point, but you need to get your entire resume like visually reformatted and structured in a different way, in a way that ChatGPT and Claude can't even fully do. That's the one thing I'll tell people, because you need an actual human to look at these things and tell them, I'm trying to get to here to do that. You may not necessarily know the right questions to ask, and ChatGPT or Claude may not know the right questions to ask. So you need a person that is versed in that. And there are resume services out there that will let you redo your resume multiple times. I have one, I forget what the name is, I have to look through my emails, but they let you do infinite rewrites of your resume for like a year after you pay for the service. And that is the one thing a lot of people look over, because I have a great resume in terms of stuff on there, but my resume was last redone before the whole AI craze really took over, like when ChatGPT 3 or 3.5, one of the two, just had basically come out, and it was like everybody was just starting to get on the whole, like, you should use ChatGPT trend. Before Claude was even in, you know, a lot of people's minds at that time. And, the differences between what I had to have in my resume, what was it, 4 years ago? Was it 4? Either way. Yeah, it's about 4. No, 3. Yeah, differences I had about 3 years ago to what I have to have in there today to get people to look at it are radically different, because I know for a fact I was getting way more callbacks and opportunities when I first was doing my job search years ago than I did now. And it wasn't until I had the resume completely overhauled by a resume professional that I actually got people to start calling out to me. And then the funny thing happened is, so the job that reached out to me, and like, I think I applied like during Thanksgiving or sometime around like the Christmas, Hanukkah time, you know, when nobody's really looking. And I had my first callback mid-January. Had my interview 2 weeks after that. But mid-January, I was getting call after call after call from a lot of people on so many different things. Hey, thank you for the super sticker there, Bengali. Appreciate that. Happy hacking, bud. So yeah, get your resume professionally redone. A lot of people overlook that step. Don't think Claude or ChatGPT is going to be the golden key for you to get your resume formatted the way you want. It can help you with some of the verbiage, but I can't exactly show you my resume because it'll give away a little bit too much PII. But it is radically different visually, how everything's laid out, verbiage of certain things, and now it's in a way that I can just amend it. Like, so since I've gotten my job, I've gotten a few more certifications. I just literally added those lines in. I'm going to have to do the same thing for the new job that I work at, but yeah, add the little spot there. But the point be, did you pass the ISSP on first try? How long did it take you to study? Yes, I passed on the first try. It took me about 5-6 months, but I went with a local class that also, was held up by my local cybersecurity group that was like $500 or so, and it went over once a week for 3 hours every Tuesday for about 3 or 4 months over each section, and then I gave myself a month or 2 on top of that. Hey, thank you for the super chat over there. Wait, you sent a super chat, but it doesn't say anything. Did you put something down? Oh, you just donated. Okay, thank you, Bengali. I was like, I normally there's like a message in there. Cool. Thank you for that. Suffocate, how fast is it into IT? Okay, first of all, I ain't a kid anymore. I am in my mid-30s. I am close to midlife crisis here. All right. How fast is it to IT? It depends. Like, everybody's path is different. You can usually get entry jobs pretty decently fast as long as you have some basic skills. Getting into the higher levels, that'll take a few years. Going for my CCNA and also building Python scripts for networks already. Nice! Haven't gone for the CCNA, but Python's nice! Failure is the best teacher. I failed OSCP on first try, but second I felt so much better and 100% it. Hey, that's good to hear. Eventually I want to tackle the OSCP, but I got so many other things I want to do first. Can a 30-year-old start in IT? Absolutely. Just like anything, just persistence. Personally shove profanities and slurs at work. Yes, I'm making my way into it at 30. Okay, you're telling them. Yeah, you can totally do it. Look, a lot of people are like, oh my god, I didn't do anything right after I left high school, and now I'm in my mid-20s or late 30s, or, you know, that, and I don't know what to do with my life. Doesn't matter how long it takes you to get there. It's that you start. Look, I didn't really officially, like, seriously do things until my mid-20s. I was kind of just effing around for the first half of my 20s, and I'm 34 now. But I was doing IT and all that for years, and then finally I went through a bad breakup when I was like 24, 25, and I was like, you know what? I gotta change a lot of shit up and get some stability and get my life on track rather than just doing this here and there and that, and that's when I switched gears. I've kind of more or less always been in IT, although I was effing around with electrician, car audio install. There was a period when I was thinking I was going to be a mechanic, and yeah, just all that. How do you start in cybersecurity? You start in IT first. How can I get a government job? No experience. Don't know. I'm not in the government. Learn a whole year just to pass an exam, then never remember it, make a mistake, and never forget. You don't need a bachelor's degree. Yeah, I know that. I don't have a bachelor's degree. I'm just getting it for the more senior positions that, for some reason, stupidly want that as a requirement. 15 years in, I think you can help me with the dilemma I have. My question coming. Where's your question? Damn it! So dumb, but that's why I'm in a master's degree program. True, I've learned more in 6 months on Hack the Box than I ever did in my bachelor's. Got a 4-year degree in CS, but switched to blue collar, making $600 to $1,000 a day. I'm happy. Hey, if it makes you happy. Hey, Chief, how are you? How has your day been? Good? Oh, yeah, Bengali, things have been great. In the Navy, we had a name for people who thought they knew things and were new to the job and knew nothing. Ensign! Effing psychology. How can you transition into IT when you worked in manufactured jobs, manual labor? You just apply yourself. You'll be surprised how long a lot...
1980s now chilling in the lab.
You'll be surprised how much of that stuff can actually translate into IT over time. Maybe not necessarily like, oh, you're doing all the, you know, the specifics of your job, but the nuance, the soft skills, things like that, learning how to communicate, and just process and procedure. A lot of that can carry over into IT. It's just a matter of, you know, putting your nose to the grindstone, learning the basics of, you know, what we have in this field, and a lot of the hardware, terminology, protocols, process. You did computer engineering? Yeah. Linux certified. I'm not even Linux certified. Put the social science majors on pitchforks. 25 years in IT, never even got my A+, been a sysadmin for 15 years. Yeah, I only got my A+ because it was part of the WGU bachelor's curriculum. Otherwise, I mean, like, I got my A+, Security+, and Network+ after my CISSP. Weird order, isn't that? I don't know how to interview, and I'm rejection sensitive. The best thing to do with that, one, therapy is helpful with a lot of that, but practice on a friend. And then if you can, have that friend bitch slap you anytime you feel bad about yourself. just knock that sense right into you. I'm kidding about that. Unless that helps. And if it does, report back to the class. Work with a guy who was a grunt in the army for 20 years, didn't know how to turn a computer on, now he's a mid-level IT guy. Good for him! You go into classes? No, I do not. I do everything online. Cybersecurity cert or degree? Either one is just a piece of paper to help check a box. Once you get to the more senior levels, they want to see a degree for some stupid reason. But in the entry level, not so much. Here's the reality, though. If you're trying to go for cybersecurity and you don't have any IT experience, you're going to be looked over most of the time. So I would start with IT jobs and work your way up there. Like, you have sysadmin, you have help desk, you know, a lot of these are junior roles, junior network administrator, things like that. Then, you know, pay your dues, or as some people refer to it as, do the bitch work for a year or two. It'll help you get into cybersecurity. I think the biggest fallacy that a lot of people have been fed is that you can go straight into cybersecurity. Can you do it? Yes. Is it likely to happen? No. I know a lot of people that have been like, oh, I just want to go into cybersecurity. Have you worked in IT? No. Have you found any job opportunities? No, I've been looking for like 2 years. Well, there's your problem. Start low, build up, and then eventually get to it. Because the problem is in cybersecurity especially, they're not wanting necessarily to hire entry-level people. They want mid to senior level. How do you get to that point? You build experience on the more basic things. Show that you have the conceptual knowledge and understanding of a lot of this stuff. Network, you need a good network for jobs. ATP, and it's same in software engineering. Yeah. Cannot log on to SSH using PuTTY on my Pi 5. Have you tried throwing it against the wall? Don't do that. You might have misconfigured something on the Raspberry Pi itself. It's kind of hard to say. Just get a latex ATS compliance CD and you're good. I always have Jean-Claude Van Damme look at my resume. I made a tool for it and got used by 200 plus people in my uni. Oh, nice. Have you taken any SAN certs? No, because those bitches are expensive. And none of my employers will pay for them. Look, if an employer will be willing to pay for SANs, I'll gladly go after it. But I ain't paying that money. Look, I am not privileged enough to have a sugar daddy fund me, okay? Or a sugar mommy. If you have a big titty goth girl sugar mommy, you ain't gonna see me make any content anymore. You're also a cybersecurity student. Nice. Do you think connections matter in hiring when it's oversaturated right now? Yeah, connections matter whether or not the market's saturated, because a lot of the jobs that people want to have actually aren't marketed as well as they should be. So a lot of times there'll be like people that will be like, hey, this job's about to open up over here. I can put a good word in for you. A lot of the jobs that I've actually gotten over the years are because I happen to know a person that was like, hey, I'm putting in a word for you. Or I happen to know a person. It's unfortunately the reality is true of, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That's how it goes most of the time. What's the most user-friendly version of Linux to switch to for gaming? Tired of Microsoft. Well, they're more or less, most of them are the same. It's more about the user environment, the GUI, graphical user interface. I had to think about that for a second. It's more about the GUI. So you have different GUIs. The predominant ones off the top of my head, you've got KDE, you've got GNOME, Cosmic is another one that came out there. Those are like the predominant ones that I mostly see nowadays. There's also like XFCE, LXDE, things like that. It mostly comes down to that. I think a lot of people, and I've talked about this in a YouTube video saying there's no best Linux distribution. The question you should really be asking is, what is the best Linux distribution for me? Is gonna vary from person to person. Arch users, be quiet. We know what you're gonna say. I use Arch, by the way. We get it. Go touch grass and take a shower. But look, some people like Bazite. I like Pop OS. Some people like Fedora. Some people will want straight vanilla Ubuntu for whatever reason. Some people will use Debian. Play with them. You have the option of choice to make your computer the way you want it. Don't let somebody dictate to you how you should have your computer experience be. Just play around. You have freedom. You have choice. You are leaving the land of Microsoft. Smash that window. Experience freedom. Pun fully intended. I like using Wireshark, and I'm interested in that subject. Where can I learn more about that CyberSec? Well, Wireshark is just one tool inside of the networking stack. So overall, what you're kind of talking about, more or less, is networking, which is the core building block of a lot of stuff. Wireshark is a fun diagnostic tool, don't get me wrong. But it's not just used in cybersecurity, it's used in IT as well. Because networking is that one part of IT and cyber that kind of can float to IT or cybersecurity because of how it's going with zero trusting and 802.1x and all these other things like Radius and things like that. But yeah, you can definitely tinker with many different ways. I would just focus more on networking as a whole. pfSense, along with some managed switches and access points, is always a way that I recommend a lot of people to go down that path. If you need some documentation on how to optimize and possibly guide your pfSense setup, one, the pfSense official documentation, the introduction and forward to it, is all basic networking concepts. So beginners can learn from it. I learned networking from that. And then building upon the different pieces in there. The documentation reads like a textbook. Then you can also use my GitHub. There's a project called pfSense SIEM, SIEM, Security Information and Event Monitoring, that originally started out with me just kind of building a sim tool for it, but I kind of turned it into this whole like document repository. So go through the folders. You'll find tons of little markdown files of all different sorts of optimizations for PF Blocker NG, Suricata, which is IDS IPS, and a bunch of other things you can do to optimize it, as well as it's got my EVE-JSON log forwarders in there that you can push for the whole sim system I've been building out. Interesting. How does it do with ATS? How does what do? In terms of application tracking systems? What, the professional resumes? They generally have systems themselves to know how they score them. Why was Vulkan built for Linux? Because Vulkan is more open source, and a lot of open source technologies tend to actually come out of the Linux world and environment. So that's why it originally came out of the Linux world. Because a lot of the people that are the most open source are the Linux users. And I have a theory, by the way, to get on a small little tangent here, that in a matter of a few years, you're already starting to see it now, Microsoft is not really going to necessarily be able to compete with how far open source software has progressed. You're already seeing right now, Linux gaming has progressed so far that the only thing holding back a good chunk of games is developers and their stupid kernel level anti-cheat. I will die on this hill. It is one of the worst pieces of software. It doesn't solve the problems like they think it does, and actually can create more instability and security issues. That's a whole other tangent. But once you remove that, Linux has no problem running Windows games. We've seen that with Proton. Do you think a SQLI scanner is a good Python project? I'm a uni comp sci interested in cyber. I think any project that you can put down to actually gain lessons that you've learned out of it is a good project. Don't let me go around quantifying and saying, like, this is bad or this is good. Look, I learned how to do Python with, teaching myself basic financial calculators and stuff like that, and running programs for that. If you are able to learn anything out of it, that's a win. I like project-based learning. That's how I tell a lot of people to do things. You're going to learn more from actually doing than you will from a textbook. Textbooks are probably one of the worst ways to learn a lot of things in IT and cybersecurity beyond a conceptual level, because by the time it's in a book, it's already like out of date by a few months to most likely a few years. If you were to automate a GRC program, how would you do it? Oh God, a GRC program automation. There's a lot of things that go into that. I know a lot of people have been using applications like Vanta and stuff like that. The question is, what parts are you trying to automate there? There's so many different pieces, but I know we would use, you need to do vulnerability scans and automate those in, so you can use something like Tenable or Qualys, get that on an automation. You're going to need to feed all of that data into a UVM, a Unified Vulnerability Management System. I'm partial to a product that used to be called Avalor. Zscaler has bought them, and now they have it called, what is it, Zscaler Risk Management or Zscaler UVM or 360. Anyway, you have to feed everything into a UVM and then have weights to contextualize a lot of stuff. You're going to need a CSPM, Cloud Security Posture Management System. That helps contextualize a lot of your vulnerabilities, because the problem is a straight vulnerability like Tenable and Qualys is just going to say, hey, you have this vulnerability that's a CVE or CVSS score of like 7 or 8, but it's not going to tell you, hey, yeah, you have this 9 out of 10 vulnerability over here, but it's in an air-gapped system that isn't really connected to the internet, but you have this 7 vulnerability over here. Now that is directly internet facing. Now, context would say the 7's more important than the 9 in that case. So it's like little things like that. there's a lot of things that can go into an automation of GRC, but it's going to be industry specific to what the needs of the customer are. A lot of it comes down to just getting your tools in place to automate them, generate the reports as needed, but not everything can be necessarily automated. You like risk exceptions, you can automate those to a point to have the work ingested, maybe score it a little bit, but you as the GRC team are still going to have to take those reports in and one by one approve or deny the different risk exceptions that come through, as well as when you're evaluating different products and the potential risks that, you know, developers may be bringing in by using that product or that approach or this, you know, way or that way. There's a lot that goes into it. This is why I don't ever want to be in GRC, by the way. That is the one position I'm like, no, I will gladly let somebody else do that. Policy's boring for me. Are you Canadian? No, but I will take that as a compliment. How do you like those headphones? I like them. I like them a lot. I'm starting in IT during autumn 2026. Any tips? Oh, you're starting a job in autumn? Like you got that? If you're just starting out, be a sponge, take everything in, tinker on the side with like think about how you want to do a home lab. Take the concepts that you're learning at work that you may not be able to play with at work and apply those in a home lab of your own doing. I generally recommend in IT and cybersecurity, spend about 10 to 20 hours per week outside of work trying to improve your, you know, knowledge and your craft. And that doesn't have to be necessarily lab time. That could be, I'm going through the news and I'm learning about the new exploits that are going on, or what geopolitical issues are going on and how this can impact my side of things. What is the political landscape going to be in effect to digital legislation? Like, we have to deal with, like, you know, CCPA, GDPR, PIPEDA, HIPAA, high-tech, all these different little regulations at the cybersecurity side. But at the IT level, you at least need to know some of that too. Am I in the blue team or red team? I'm more on the blue team. I have 2 years as a desktop technician. What do you think would be the best route to get back into it? Just do it. I mean, you're talking about just being a desktop technician. It's more just getting back up on your feet, building up yourself to, you know, tinker a little bit here and there. Desktop technician, I'm not trying to put anyone down or anything, is still relatively more of an entry-level kind of thing, so it's not as hard to, you know, swing back into it. Desktop, you know, all that side of things hasn't really changed all that much in the past few years. It's not as exciting as it once was in the 90s and aughts. No offense to anyone, I'm just telling you from experience. That was a whole wild ride between, oh, you had to know the difference between AGP, PCI Express, PCI, and ISA slots. You had to know how to get your the IRQ and DMA all set up in the right order, and at times you even had to learn how to install drivers in the right order to boot your machine properly. Whole different world. May I ask for your advice if you're willing to give? I want to be an SDE, but 4,000 rejections currently. SDE. Is that you're talking software developer? Hold on. Oh, SDE, but, okay. Software development engineer. Alright, I was just not familiar with that specific term. It makes sense, though. I just kind of all lumped them into SWEs. You want to be an SDE, but 4,000 rejections currently? Look at your resume. Go into the one you would have to see. Go look for the positions of jobs that you want. See what they're looking for. And then if your things are lining up, look at getting a professional resume writer to help ATS optimize your resume. Because the problem is a lot of these systems are going through automated systems. He'll be 22 in August. Mazel tov. Going into cloud security, do you think college or cert boot camp is the way to go? No, not a cert boot camp. The problem is cert boot camps are overrated. You don't really learn much. While I'm not necessarily saying college is a bad idea or a good idea, out of the two that are given there, college would be the better approach. You can do certs on your own time. In fact, what I would tell you to do, try making a cloud lab yourself and tinker and bash your headway through that. There's I mean, yeah, you can do AWS and Azure, but there's also like DigitalOcean, which is a little bit more cost effective, and I think Linode is still a good one out there. I haven't used Linode in a few years, though. A lot of the concepts do translate over, although the specifics don't. Azure will confuse the hell out of you, I'll tell you that. AWS, there's just so many things out there. I miss AWS, though. Would you date the Linux penguin? With enough alcohol? Probably. $20 is $20. Yep, it took me a while, and now I'm starting a new venture, started my own business, everything. Nice. Any tips for future IT students starting in autumn 2026? Oh, I think they're the same person that talked about a little earlier. What I would say is, yeah, home lab, tinker on the side. You're going to learn a lot more fixing and breaking your own shit and giving yourself projects than you will in the classroom. Not saying the IT degree is necessarily a bad thing. It's an HR checkbox. I'm just saying you're going to learn more doing a lot more shit on your own. Oh, and make friends. Make friends in this industry. Because it's not what you know, it's who you know. Learn to network. Get yourself out there. Maybe get an internship. Attend meetups. Like Eventbrite, meetup.com, and I think it's InfoSec Maps. Those are 3 places you can go to find different IT venues, and a lot of them don't cost anything. Some don't some will cost maybe like a few bucks. Rub shoulders with people, make friends, network, put yourself out there. Nurture those relationships. Do you think I can get in help desk with just an A+ cert? You can get in without an A+ cert at all. I did that shit for years without any certs or anything. Just let me put it this way. A lot of people have the misconception that a cert or a degree will get them the job. At most, the cert or the degree
is now chilling
will...
in the lab.
Thank you for the follow. At most, the cert or the degree will help you get the interview for the job. You ultimately determine if you get the job or not. Because once you get past that HR checkpoint and you're past the gatekeeper, that's all on you, buddy. And I'm going to tell you straight up, once you're in the actual interview with your hiring manager, most cases, with the exception of like government and a few things that are very dependent upon certs and things like that, they ain't going to give a shit about your cert. An A+ won't hurt. It at least, is a signal to you've passed the test for things. But as I talked about on my YouTube video talking about the A+ that I recently did, I think that's my second most recent video if you want to go watch it, and my input about the A+ test and everything there. It won't hurt you in your entry level. But don't worship it like it's going to be the determining factor necessarily between whether you get the job or the not. A lot of times it comes down to, and I've seen this firsthand from myself and friends, a lot of people's resumes look like shit. You may have the experience and, things you can put down there, but sometimes it just needs to be rearranged and reworded. I saw it firsthand. I'm actually a witness to this. I changed my resume. Got tons more callbacks. As the great Michael Jackson once said, you gotta change your ways. I'm a system administrator. I tried super chatting Kim Patel Dick Ball Cheese on YouTube. Not sure why it didn't work. Cybersecurity worth coming years since the market is bad. The market's bad all over. Cybersecurity is still worth it. The problem that a lot of people have is they think that they can just go into cybersecurity. And I can tell you firsthand, a lot of companies and jobs are not wanting to hire people that are new to the field in cybersecurity. They want to see a few years under your belt. Can you find a job without that experience? Yes. But it's not impossible, it's improbable. There's plenty of jobs in cybersecurity. Like, look, as bad as the market is, I landed a new job with a nice pay bump, and now I'm a senior in about 5 months of job searching. So there are jobs there, but you got to build it up. The chat delayed. No, I'm catching up on chat, Just Dev. I went on a tangent for a little thing. How many donuts? Any good projects to do in Python related to security? Oh, there's plenty of them. So I've actually done quite a few for myself. Like, I have a typo squatting detection tool that I'm working on, Typo Sniper. I have my SimSoar project I've been working on and adding a whole bunch of different things in Python and Bash. There's tons of things you can do in Python. I will tell you did bad and get over it soon. Hey, I mean, Prisms, if you're willing to do practice interviews, I mean, by all means, the chat room is open in the Discord for you. The voice chat room. Just for that. Oh, I got a Security Plus, have Sim Home Labs. What's next? Want to get into SOC. Make a resume, document that work that you've done, and showcase that experience. My other advice, so you've done a sim and everything like that, make a blog out of it. What you've done for that journey. Document it. Put that on your resume. My GitHub is actually on my resume. So my job that I'm currently at, they looked at my resume, looked through my GitHub, and my TikToks and YouTube and stuff like that, and then really wanted to hire me. Oh, that's another chat. Leave that to Chief. Wait, what? What? Leave what to me? I'm catching up on chat. What distro do you use? I use Pop OS. Thank you for the lookout, though. Sands are ridiculous in cost. Oh, yeah, that. Chief is my sugar uncle. Just as long as I'm not your Catholic priest. I have CISSP, CISM, AWS, SAA, ISO 27000, lead auditor with 26 years experience. Okay. Was there any additional to that, or just got cut off? If you're just starting learning fundamentals, should I go to school, online Capella, or military? That's going to be a personal call for you. So I know a few people that went to the military and learned IT and stuff and then left there, but there's a different way that they do things from civilian life when you get out. That's not a call I could make for you. That's more of a where you think you're going to want to be situation. Because you can do an entire career as a whole in the military. That is an option. Some people like that. Arch is the best experience on Linux. You shut your mouth, it's just dev. I learned my cyber shit by watching Chief streams, ATB. Oh, that's nice. Thank you for saying that. Now that Linux has surpassed 11% of 150 million, when will Linux have their own malware protection? They already do. Linux has their own protection. Generally, it's Arch users not showering because nobody wants to get near them. But We have CrowdStrike, we have Bitdefender that works on Linux, there's Sophos, there's all these different softwares. A lot of the softwares that you use on Windows, those vendors, they have Linux versions. They just tend to be in the EDR side of things. You also have like ClamAV. There is also Rootkit Hunter, RK Hunter for going after rootkits. Because in Linux it's more rootkits than there are other kinds of malware, although that's kind of growing and all that. But it exists. And it's going to be happening more and more over time that you're going to see people want to create that kind of stuff. But you also have to remember, Linux fundamentally was designed a different way than Microsoft Windows was. In what I mean by that is that there are more ways. So, how do I put this? Windows is still required to be backwards compatible with software, like all the way back to like Windows 95, basically. The problem with that is that you still have a lot of the issues from the older software that can still hook in and exploit Windows. Windows, for all intents and purposes to this discussion, was never designed to be networked. Networking was an add-on to Windows. Whereas in Linux and Unix land as a whole, it was designed for networking. Unix originally started as an operating system to replace telephone switchboards. You know, those telephone operators you used to see, let me plug you in and all that? That was originally one of the main purposes for Unix. And then they realized it was so powerful they could do a lot more with it. And then TCP/IP networking came around. I mean, there's even a famous story around Steve Ballmer, one of the former CEOs and heads of Microsoft, that actually said, because back in the day, you had to install a software called Trumpet, I think it was, that my dad said it was, to be able to do TCP/IP networking in Windows, because Internet Explorer was not really a thing. It was Mosaic browser, and I think Trumpet you had to use. And Windows 95, if I recall correctly, was the first Windows to have TCP/IP networking built in. Part of the reason why that happened was Steve Ballmer kept getting pestered by people asking to put TCP/IP into Windows. And he more or less said, I don't know what the hell this TCP/IP shit is, but put it in so they can stop bothering me about it. And now we think of TCP/IP as this ubiquitous technology. But it wasn't. And a lot of that stuff is carrying over to this day. Whereas Linux has not been afraid of breaking backwards compatibility at times. So if you ever look at Linux documentation, a lot of times it'll say it needs Linux kernel v2.6 or higher, because there was a huge shift from 2.6 and prior, and it broke all of those versions. But Windows, in part because they have to support these major enterprises that a lot of times are running on dinosaur software that exists longer than we are, many of us have been on this earth, they still have to support it. Linux is not afraid to say, hey, we're changing this entire thing. If you want it to still work, you're more than welcome to run this old version over here, but we're moving on. In the same way that Mac has done a lot of things. Apple might be a little bit more aggressive historically in how they did things. Like, they were famous for, getting rid of the floppy disk entirely and going to CD. Getting rid of USB-A ports to USB-C. All of those things. Eventually the market picks up on it, but yeah. Just Linux distribution for use Windows Pro. I think Steambox is the death knell of Microsoft. I think the death knell of Microsoft has been Windows 11. Been building on machine learning based NIDs, but can only get a proof of concept going. That's still interesting. Master in cybersecurity, 7-year network engineer. That's more of a call if you want to make it. You have a Defcon flag going this year, and why Defcon is going to be at Singapore. Defcon is in 3 different countries now. So Defcon originally started in the USA in Las Vegas, Nevada. But I think it was this year or last year, they started expanding into Singapore and Bahrain. So that's why they're doing it. They're just expanding the brand. And congratulations to Dark Tangent, the guy that's been behind it. I think his real name is Jeff Moss, I think it is. But we know him as DT, Dark Tangent. He's done a great job of doing this, and he has done an excellent amount of work to advocate and lobby for cybersecurity to no longer be seen as the miscreants and misfits of society and be accepted as a legitimate career, because it was not too long ago Congress did not understand. A lot of us were not doing a lot of the things we do to, like, phone freak and break machines to be malicious. We were tinkerers. We were finding exploits. And then he was in panels along with Cult of the Dead Cow, amongst others. If you're not familiar with these, you need to learn a lot of your history between Kevin Mitnick, Jeff Moss, Dark Tangent. You also have Cult of the Dead Cow, CDC. They're still pretty prolific. They're the ones behind Valid right now. And they spoke to Congress about the need for all of this. If I remember it correctly, CDC were the people that actually released the first virus. Virus making back in the day used to be an art form. Like, people had some playful viruses doing all kinds of funny things on there, like Dancing Baby and everything. Before people realized you could make money, and money ruined everything. That's a whole other tangent. LLMs would never add vulns to my code base, right? Yeah, they would. Any tips for developers? Don't eat the yellow snow. These guys don't know the reins of speaking to clients and meetings. Yeah. Set the jumpers for 6 hours plus on site. Jeez. What's up, live and learn? Should I go for CISSP? I have less than 1 year experience. No. If you have less than 1 year experience, don't bother with CISSP. So you can go for CISSP before you have your 5 years of experience in the field, 4 years if you have a 4-year degree. But at most you get, like, what is it, Associate of CISSP or Associate of ISC squared. Don't bother with it. Don't, like, start with the other certs if you're thinking about certs, but you don't necessarily need certs. CISSP was my first cert that I got. You can go for, what is it, the Certified in Cyber cert that ISC squared has, and then go for Security Plus, Network Plus, if you really want to go down that route, if anything. But hold off on CISSP till you have 5 years. 4 years with a 4-year degree. What AI tool is coding is appropriate for a setting like government? Main concerns? It's not really so much the tool itself. So in government, you would need a couple of things. One, if you're using a AI tool that is a SaaS, a software as a service, they must have an agreement that it will not train on the data that you're putting into it. So GitHub GitHub Enterprise on GitHub Copilot.
_Misu is now chilling in the lab.
And we have, thank you for the follow. We have AWS Q, which they're now calling Kiro. Those are two that you can use properly, that it won't train on the customer data. A lot of governments have AWS agreements, so there is AWS GovCloud it'll go through and all that stuff. And I think there's a similar thing with GitHub. And then alternatively, what you can also do is you can basically set up your own LLM. So on, I forget what it's called in Azure, but in AWS it's called Bedrock, where you can essentially run your own LLMs inside of there, either ones that are pre-trained or build your own with like SageMaker and things like that. So it's more not about specific tooling, but how you're setting them up and the agreements there. If you're building AI on-premise, that's going to cost a lot of money and hardware. Just being honest with you. Cloud Lab on my own. How good at Defcon to finish this crazy shit if I have to? Catching up. All my knowledge of Linux has come from troubleshooting my own computers. I lived through FGLRX and Endus Wrapper. Oh, then you know my pain. You know my pain of ATI Radeon FGLRX drivers. You would finally get it working. You're like, all right, it works. We're not touching anything. Because a simple update would break your entire GUI. And then there you are, spending 5 to 6 hours to get shit working again. It's funny, because there was a time, if I recall, that NVIDIA was seen as easier with Linux than ATI. And then AMD came around after they acquired ATI, and then open sourced the drivers right into the kernel, and then suddenly, script flipped. Now Linux, now NVIDIA's not so bad. I mean, I've run it for 5 or 6 years on Linux, no problem. So what's your reasoning for now getting a degree? Are you feeling the HR filtering as well? Yup. Sent that at 8:07. Yeah, I went on a tangent for a long time. I'm catching up on the chat. We're almost there, baby. We're speed running this shit. This is the problem with ADHD, because we still got some videos I want to go through. What's up, Abby? How's it going? Chief always too embarrassed to mention our... I'm not reading that out loud, but goddamn! What do you think about the latest Anthropic update? Which update have they done? I haven't really kept up on it. I've been busy doing so many other things. Thanks for being on tonight. Appreciate the info. My pleasure. Should be in IT help desk jobs for how long since you moved to cybersecurity jobs? Basic IT overall, help desk and such, you're gonna need probably, at minimum, a year, but probably closer to 2 to 3 years of experience before they'll actually probably look at you seriously in cybersecurity. It's based on the input that I've learned from many different managers I've worked for and with. Chief, this is really live? No, we are dancers. We're not humans. We are dancers. What distro do I use? Pop OS. GitHub checks are a lot more common, these days. Yep. I remember hearing you were pursuing a degree. What degree, if you don't mind me asking? Are you feeling the heat from HR filtering as well, or is it personal reason for furthering education? It's the HR filtering. I'm not learning anything in these classes. I am actually halfway through my bachelor's already. So I started having to take 23 classes. I started January 1st. It's April 7th right now. I have already finished 11 classes, as I remember correctly, out of the 23 I had to start. And I'm only 1 semester in. I still have 3 months. I am not learning anything. I am literally just studying enough to learn the terminology they want to have for the exam, and then go, 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 go. Like, in 1 single month, CompTIA A+, Core 1 and Core 2, Network Plus, and Security Plus. All of them giving myself less than 7 days. And I probably altogether spent maybe 5 or 6 hours on them. Just going over to see what the format was, what questions you're looking at, and then go for it. And my lowest score on any of those was, I think, CompTIA Core 2, I think it was? Or was it Core 1? It was one of the CompTIA. I have to look at my score chart that I had. I have it written down somewhere for my scripts. But I got no lower than the 800s in any of them. I think my lowest was an 806 out of 900. Thoughts on Fortinet? Haven't they been getting in the news for a lot of different issues? I know some people love them. I just don't use them. Thoughts on Professor Messer videos in preparation for CompTIA Plus? Do you think it's overhyped? I've never used his videos, so I'm not going to speak ill of him. I know some people that speak very highly of him. Or them. Messer's a dude, right? Don't want to misgender anyone on accident. But, I can't say one way or the other. I haven't used them. So they could be good. I've heard good things, but I haven't felt the need for them myself. Are you trying to make jokes? When do I not try to make jokes? I mean, I have a whole soundboard here with like funny little things. You know? Our Blockbuster servers were Unix. That's taken back. Netscape Navigator, which became Mozilla Firefox, so oversimplifying it. But eventually it did. Apple's Unix-based too, right? There are Unix-like. So they are based on Unix, yes, since Mac OS X. Which the footprints for the current Mac OS X was based on Steve Jobs' next computing when he got fired from Apple. He did get fired. A lot of people don't know that. And then got rehired. Hey, Chief, thoughts on AGI possibly being a thing with Claude Mythos? I think a lot of people are overhyping the idea of AGI and everything. Show me a Turing pass unguided and unaided, and then we'll have that discussion. I love when Defcon comes to town. Users always be trolling around the city. Oh, it's a fun time. Someone hacked a sign at one of our shopping plazas and put furries up on it. Well, you deserved it! Shouldn't have let your sign get hacked! Because, you know, the furries are gonna do that! Never piss off a furry, by the way. Doing a degree in cybersecurity, what certifications do you recommend? I mean, you're talking to somebody that only got a CISSP just for fun. That was my first ever cert, so I don't know necessarily if I'm the best person to like go around saying like what certifications do I recommend to get into cybersecurity, because I got into cybersecurity without a degree or a certification. I'm now getting the degree to go to higher levels. Like my end goal is architecture. So I'm probably going to end up with myself, CISSP, which I already have. Then I want to go for CCSP and then maybe CISM. And then I know at WGU, I had to take my Network Plus, A Plus, Security Plus, and then next on the block is Project Plus, Data Plus, Pentest Plus, CISA Plus. Yeah. I think overall WGU is probably a good value, having gone through the course. Do I find the education for myself valuable? No, because I've been in the field for many years. But I can see it being valuable for a lot of people that want to do things on their own time. And I think for the cost of one semester that I've gone so far, it's basically equated the cost of what it would cost me most of the certs and study materials. Can I put my GitHub in the DC? In the DC would like to share my projects in the DC. What do you mean in DC? Do you just mean, oh, the Discord chat? You can put your GitHub on there. Share your information. I don't give a shit. As long as you're not being malicious or a dick. Well, being a dick is malicious. As long as you, look, my gold rule is in my server is basically just don't be a dick. Be excellent to everyone. I work a school district and we use Gemini. I mean, kind of makes sense. A lot of them are in Google's pockets. Got it. Thanks, Red. Try to stuff, but no matter what I do, I can't grasp explaining things. I'll try Jason Dion's practice test module. Huh? Are you still in MSP land with this new gig? No, I am not. Don't get me wrong. I'm grateful for the years that I've done MSP, but I do not want to do that again. Not unless I'm the boss and I'm making mucho dinero, but it's not going to happen. Prisms, it caught your thing. There is such a different experience for people who work in this field and people that just do it for the game and because they like computers. It's a whole different experience. Oh yeah, indeed. I do it because I like it. But I deal with a lot of people that just do it for their job, and then they're always looking at me like, how do you know this shit? How do you know about that product or that product? Like, what was it today? We've been complaining about AirLocker. And I was talking to the guy that, you know, was overseeing it, and I'm like, are y'all familiar with the product called Threat Locker? And they're like, no. And I'm like, I used it as an MSP a few years ago, and I reconnected with the guys when I was at GurCon, and it seems like they have some really good improvements, so we may look at it as an alternative. And they're like, huh, guess we'll have to look at that. How did I learn that? Because I went to GurCon for the fun of it, met the Threat Locker guys, and I'm like, hey, it's been a few years since I used your product. Do you mind running me through a demo so I can learn some things and maybe see if it's worthwhile recommending one day? And I did that before I got this job. There's also been a lot of different projects that, like, I show, and hell, what was it, like, the other day? I dropped in the SOC chat some information I got from my buddies where they're like, hey, we're seeing these malicious IP addresses from this kind of stuff going to these addresses. You should probably block those. And they're like, and then I dropped in the chat, like, hey, I got this information hot off the presses from one of my buddies in another business locally, and they're like, how the hell did you just get that? I'm like, we're in a Signal chat. We hang out. I'm in GRC and I'm looking at IAM. Any advice? I have 5 years of experience in security. Well, you're going to have an identity crisis working in identity and access management. That is a joke. But anyone that actually works in IAM knows it's true. God damn it, I wish Jessica was here. She's a IAM architect. She would have a laugh at that. She's one of my buddies IRL. But anyway, a lot of it's just basically around knowing the tool. So there is definitely a difference between GRC and IAM. GRC, a lot of it's around policy, maybe using tools to find vulnerabilities, direct them in the best path forward, things like that. Identity is you are the gatekeeper, and you're going to get yelled at quite a bit. Maybe not literally, but people are going to not like the fact that you're not giving them access to things and that you get reasons for it. You're going to be learning about, like, Active Directory, LDAP, OIDC, SAML, the different authentication mechanisms. Maybe you can, you know, play with, like, Okta's not too expensive to start playing with for SSO and stuff like that. It's the tools that you want to hook into it. So maybe Microsoft Office 365 with Entra, or at least just get some familiarity with Okta, Entra, Cisco Duo. Excuse me, maybe Jump Cloud. That is where a lot of identity and access management works on those. Learn about Active Directory. A lot of businesses are still using that, at least in the hybrid capacity. Not too many companies are fully cloud unless they are newer businesses, because a lot of the businesses that have been around for a couple decades are still in that hybrid kind of life. I feel like most people get into it like a hobby, but there's a concept I 100% believe in, that no matter how much you love something, the moment you make money off of it, the passion dies slowly. Yes and no. Are there days that I don't want to tinker with cybersecurity? Yes. Because I've maybe just, like, been cybered out. You know, I've done so much at work. But I genuinely enjoy it that, like... So, I'm at my job right now, and it's kind of a weird time because it's kind of slow and we're still picking up. So, I'm giving myself a lot of projects to do and then just sharing what I'm doing. And then my free time, when I'm working from home, I'm building other coding projects, and actually shared at work about me training my AI server on cybersecurity information from CISA, NIST, MITRE, the past 90 days of CVEs and stuff. And They were loving it. And that's stuff that I can eventually put into work. And that's on my GitHub, so it's my shit I own. I just got gifted a PowerEdge R710. Is it worth building up? Hey, free shit, use it. Now, I don't remember specifically which one that is, but most of those rack boys are pretty loud and may use a bit of power, so plan accordingly. But look, you got free shit. Use it. Secondhand hardware is the best thing, and you got gifted some good shit. I don't know what specifically is in yours, but use it to the best of health. Make it a Proxmox box. Build a bunch of stuff with it. Happy hacking. Maybe join the Discord server and Matrix server that we have, and the links are in bio for, and some people can give you some great ideas for different things you can do. Because I'll give some input on, like, here's some things you can do, and other people will be like, hey, have you tried that? Have you tried that? Do you want to make a Portainer server and serve a bunch of Dockers on that? Maybe you want to learn how to do some Kubernetes controllers and stuff like that. Well, you might want to have more devices if you're doing Kubernetes. The point still stands. You have options. You do like to make jokes. Well, if you're not laughing, you're not living. I believe life is too short to not enjoy it. You having a bit of a laugh, ain't it? Yes. You just had to do that in like kind of a British Cockney kind of way. I can speak Cockney too. Let me go grab a bag full of marbles, shove them in my mouth, and start. Blockbuster was fabulous. So many furries in cybersecurity. IT is ridiculous. It's STEM in general. Furries are everywhere. Don't piss off furries. If they can afford a $5,000 to $10,000 suit, they can afford a pipe bomb. How long that going to take? Lots of pluses. Well, it took me like 3 weeks. That's me. I've been doing this for years already, so at this point it's just check, 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 done. Cloud Mythos can't give BJs yet, so it's officially not AGI. God damn it, Prisms. What you like most about this type of stuff? What's the satisfaction do you gain from it? I like the puzzle. The puzzle, the mystery, the, you know, digging into it, building something, seeing how everything operates. Being able to learn how the human mind operates, so you can learn about how things tick. But yeah. Today was a ladies' jewelry day. Oh, nice. Opinion on threat intel. I can't help but feel like the research is minimally impactful for most companies. It depends on how they apply it. Threat intel is valuable, but the issue isn't so much that you're getting threat intel. It's how you're applying that intel. Yes, having good sources, great. You need that, absolutely. You know, but you also need to be part of, like, ISACs and everything to share things that are relevant to your business. Like, if you're in the financial sector and you're getting threat intel about manufacturing, it may not always translate. So you're going to have to know what's going on in the financial sector and the actors that are trying to target your sector. I should start using roles in my Proxmox. It's not a bad idea. I am that bitch. Zero trust it. Would you know a place to get decent enough data sets for IDS using CIV IDS 2017 and it doesn't translate well today? So I've actually been building something like that. For IDS, I've actually been using snort rules and emerging threats. They have free sets. But I'm also working on training my AI server using an embedded LLM to pull the latest 90 days of CVEs along with MITRE ATT&CK framework, things like that, to have an LLM be able to go into my sim and do queries on information relevant to all of that stuff. That stuff's in my GitHub. It's still a work in progress. But emerging threats and Snort have good rule sets that can be used in Suricata, IDS, and IPS. That's what I've been doing in my PF since. Who keep complaining about joke? Somebody on YouTube. Everyone I've worked in the IT space has always been ADHD as hell. I love it. It's kind of a prerequisite to be in the STEM field for the most part. Just PJ. That's awesome. That's my goal end of year. Nice. All right. So, I speed run the convo. Hooray! All right. So, did y'all hear about the LinkedIn data leak? There was a LinkedIn data leak, apparently, where it was giving away a lot more data and collecting on us than people would really be comfortable with. And LinkedIn is one of those unfortunate necessary evils of getting a lot of jobs and everything like that. Prisms, I have reviewed that image last night. I just didn't show it last night. Alright, let's see. Let me get my audio working over here. Alright, so we got that audio going, and then let's insert through JavaScript. Nice. I'm not a fan of JavaScript. I do more of my stuff in like Python and Bash. But to each their own.
Front, left.
Okay, we got the audio going. Cool. Sweet. All right. So we're going to be talking about the LinkedIn data leak. This is from Deep Humor. We've shown them on the channel quite a bit. So we'll see what they're talking about. I was watching, if I remember when I was reading some articles about this was about the data that they were collecting on your browsers and everything that you were using and extensions. But apparently it's doing a little bit of espionage on what's on your computer.
Oh man, LinkedIn is in some serious trouble because they have been spying on you this entire time. So LinkedIn, the job social media that people use to find jobs, network with...
Hold on. Do I have the right sound for this? God damn it, I do not. I need to put that back on the pad. I was going to do the don't be suspicious, don't be suspicious. You know, from Parks and Rec.
Trying to further their careers. Well, they've actually been exposed for spying on you. Remember that they also work with persona identities.
Oh no, Microsoft is collecting data on you? They would never!
One of the biggest ID verification vendors out there, and LinkedIn has been illegally searching your computer, and they, with Microsoft, are running one of the largest corporate espionage operations in modern history.
Microsoft would never break the law! They've never done anything unethical! I mean, Microsoft has never, ever, even been accused of antitrust by the Department of Justice, and they've never been accused of embrace, extend, extinguish. Oh, wait, yeah, they have. Huh. Imagine that. And this is why I look at people when I'm like, and you're still letting Microsoft do their shit. Because what? Your one game doesn't work on Linux? I'll buy the excuse of the business person that needs their line of business application to actually make money. More than I will buy it from you, an average person, saying, well, Valorant doesn't work on Linux. And I'm going to say that's a feature, not a bug. And that's more of a limitation of the developer. Hell, Apex Legends used to work on Linux until EA effed it up and put their stupid kernel-level anti-cheat. And I will die on the hill about kernel-level anti-cheat. Nobody will convince me otherwise, and show me a actual cybersecurity professional that will say it's a good thing and then maybe we may have a discussion, but I'm betting that person probably doesn't really know a lot of what they're talking about. But yeah. Shock face, yeah. Currently de-Microsofting my whole shop. Nice! Let us know how that goes.
Huge shout out to Fairlinked EV for doing this research, but man, we got to get into this because this is crazy. So,
if the game doesn't work in a Linux VM, I ain't playing it unless it's on the Switch. That's my point. I tell people, like, for years, when people are like, well, how do you do gaming on Linux? Like, what happens if a game doesn't work on it? Then I don't play it. Before Proton was a thing, or actually when Proton was a thing, I would actually buy games to try them out and make them work. And if they wouldn't work, I would return them on Steam. There's a game, Grounded, I wanted to play. For some stupid reason, it had you log in through Xbox Live and the display would not work right. It would just white out and everything. I returned it. Look, I can find thousands of other games that can entertain me. And to be honest, I find a lot of the old games a lot better than modern games. What is illegally searching your computer? Apparently Microsoft and LinkedIn.
Searching your computer. Every time any one of LinkedIn's 1 billion users visits linkedin.com, Hidden Code searches their computer for installed software, collects the results, and transmits them to LinkedIn servers and to third-party companies, including an American-Israeli cybersecurity firm. The user is never asked, never told. LinkedIn's privacy policy does not mention. Because LinkedIn knows each user's real name, employer, and job title, it is not searching anonymous visitors. It is searching identified people at identified companies, millions of companies every day all over the world.
Not for me, because I run my Flort browser inside a Flatpak and it's sandboxed. Ha You only get to know what's on my Flatpak. You know Tachi the system.
And I actually have something to add to this as well. If you guys recall, I did a video about a month ago talking about LinkedIn sending your face and other personal data to a, quote, global network of third-party data sources. And
you're 25 this year, working in IT, creative game dev. Is 25 too late to shift to cybersecurity? Hell no! The other day I was telling somebody that's like, hey, is 40 too old to, shift into IT and cybersecurity? No. It's more about mindset than age. Dude, I didn't really start getting heavy into cybersecurity more so than my basic IT shit until I was around 25. I was playing with firewalls and all that, but I didn't get really seriously into it until a bad breakup around 24, 25. Dude, you're fine.
of course, they were using Persona to do so. So basically, somebody wants to have a better chance of getting noticed on LinkedIn, so they go ahead and verify their identity. What Persona was collecting was your full name, passport photo, selfie, facial geometry, NFC chip data, national ID number. You get the idea. And LinkedIn was sending that information to a bunch of other people, meaning that everyone who verified with LinkedIn, your information is possibly everywhere. Well, now...
This is why I don't do that verified by LinkedIn shit. I don't care for that stupid blue check mark. You don't need that fucking shit. You don't need a stupid blue check mark to know that you're a real person. Just be a real person.
LinkedIn themselves have not only been sending your information everywhere, but they've also been collecting it and harvesting it, and this could lead to one of the biggest data leaks of all time. The
GDPR!
This browser gate. They're an association of commercial LinkedIn users who represent the professionals who use LinkedIn, the business that invest in and depend on the platform, and the tool makers who build products for it. So BrowserGate is their investigation and campaign to document one of the largest corporate espionages and data breach scandals in digital history, to inform the public and regulators, to collect evidence, and to raise funds for the legal proceedings required to stop it.
Oh,
So
damn. They going to task.
Personal data. LinkedIn scan reveals the religious beliefs, political opinions, disabilities, and job search activity of identified individuals. LinkedIn is scanning for extensions that identify practicing Muslims, extensions that reveal political orientation, and extensions built for neurodivergent users, and 509 job search tools that expose who is secretly looking for work on the very platform where their current employer can see their profile.
That is bullshit. Also, just want to note here, I only have a few extensions. I've got the Proton Lumo AI, this vidIQ for YouTube. I've got Open Profile Manager, Ad Nauseum, Bitwarden, Proton, and Dark Reader. I keep my things very simple. But yeah,
Under EU law, this category of data is not regulated. It is prohibited. LinkedIn has no consent, no disclosure, and no legal basis. Its privacy policy does not mention any of this.
I think this is also a violation under CCPA as well as POPIA. Well, nobody really uses it in China, from my understanding, at least approvingly, so I doubt PIPL applies here. But yeah, POPIA is South Africa, PIPEDA is Canada, if I remember correctly. CCPA is California.
LinkedIn scans for over 200 products that directly compete with its own sales tools, including Apollo, Lucia, and Zoom Info. Because LinkedIn knows each user's employer, it can map which companies use which competitor products.
Yo!
Thousands of software companies from their users' browsers without anyone's knowledge. It kind of reminds me of what Honey was doing. If you
What?
the whole Honey thing that was exposed by this YouTuber Megalag, Honey was going into your browser and sniping affiliate commissions away, and this LinkedIn thing is pretty similar as well. They're infiltrating your browser without you even knowing, and they're going ahead and taking your information as a result.
Microsoft would never invade your privacy. Well, yeah. I mean, they would never invade your privacy.
Has already sent enforcement threats to users of third-party tools using data obtained through this covert scanning to identify its targets. In 2023, the EU designated LinkedIn as a regulated gatekeeper under the Digital Markets Act and ordered it to open its platform to third-party tools. LinkedIn's response is, it published 2 restricted APIs and presented them to the European Commission as compliance. Together, these APIs handle approximately 0.07 calls per second. Meanwhile, LinkedIn already...
Holy shit!
API called Voyager that powers every LinkedIn web and mobile product at 160,000 calls per second. In Microsoft's 249-page compliance report to the EU, the word API appears 533 times. Voyager appears 0 times. At the same time, LinkedIn expanded its surveillance of the exact tools the regulation was designed to protect. The scan list grew from roughly 461 products in 2024 to over 6,000 by February.
Holy shit!
The EU told LinkedIn to let third-party tools in. LinkedIn built a surveillance system to find and punish every user of those tools. They are shipping...
Wow!
And this is something that we already talked about last month in that video.
So they will know if you use that GitHub extension that lets you know if that LinkedIn user that you happen to be on the profile of happen to be in the Epstein list. Okay, I'm not even joking about that. That is a thing. That is a thing. I have it starred here somewhere in my GitHub. Hold on. Oh, we can just search this. Yeah, there you go. Search the publicly released Epstein court documents for mentions of your LinkedIn connections. Also, in case you need it, one of my buddies made an Epstein file finder to find all the media files inside of the Epstein files.
I was telling you guys about, but LinkedIn loads an invisible tracking element from Human Security, formerly Perimeter X, an American-Israeli security firm, 0 pixels wide, hidden off screen that sets cookies on your browser without your knowledge. A separate fingerprinting script runs from LinkedIn's own servers. A third-party script from Google executes silently on every page load. All of it encrypted, none of it disclosed. And if you're going to tell me that Persona Identities, Rick Song's company, has no involvement here, I would not believe you for a second. These guys have been working together to collect, harvest, and send your information to third parties. And now with this whole BrowserGate thing that is happening with LinkedIn, I would not be surprised if Persona was involved at all. So just some of the key numerical takeaways, right? The investigation alleges LinkedIn secretly scans users' browsers for over 6,000 extensions and potentially affected 405 million.
God damn, that's a lot of extensions.
Denies the allegation, stating browser detection is used solely to protect platform integrity and prevent scraping violations. Yeah, you can miss me with that bullshit. There's no way that that's true. Remember, like I said a month ago, LinkedIn and by extension Persona already got exposed like a month ago for collecting all this information from you just because you want to verify your profile on LinkedIn. Look at all this information they were getting about you just so you can have a better chance of getting on LinkedIn. I mean, it is insanity. Some of their, quote, global network of trusted third-party data.
You don't need verified on LinkedIn badges. You don't need it. I did just fine without it.
Data sources included government databases, national ID registries, consumer credit agencies, utility companies, mobile network providers, and postal address databases. This person scanned their passport for a check mark, but they ran a background check. And of course, with all of these AI verification companies like Persona and by extension LinkedIn using them, most of the time they are really just going to be using your information to train their AI. And remember, the Browsergate thing where LinkedIn was snooping around your browser and taking all your information, this was just some of the information they got just from Persona. Your full name, birth, your government ID, verification result, and a blurred version of your ID. So they were already receiving plenty of information from Persona where they were going ahead and being able to send that to all these trusted third-party sources or whatever the fuck. So in terms of the regulation of LinkedIn, once again, shout out to these guys for doing this research. In 2024, Microsoft was designated as...
What's your allegation on Intel's kernel-based spyware? What kernel-based spyware are we talking about? Is this the same Intel management engine on the Ring -3 stuff? Or are you talking about something different?
As a gatekeeper under the Digital Markets Act in the EU, the two regulated products are Microsoft Windows and Microsoft LinkedIn. The Digital Markets Act mandates the gatekeepers follow business users and authorized third-party...
Yeah, so Intel management engine is not kernel level. It's hardware level. Intel management engine is... Let me put it this way. It's not spyware. It is not. Let me explain. It allows for out-of-band management of devices, and what does that mean? In the corporate world, basically, you have the ability to update down to the firmware level remotely on all the machines. So you don't have to physically access the machine to do even a BIOS update. It is very useful in the IT sense. Now, with that being said, it is a liability in terms of security because it has a lot of access. It's essentially a Minix server, which is another form of Unix, microkernel architecture, very small, basically running its own web server in there. It's its own microprocessor with its own operating system on your CPU. AMD has an equivalent, I think it's PSP or something like that. But anyway, ME is a tool there. I have the belief that you should be able to disable ME if you really want. And there is a way to disable it by flipping a bit, but you still need Intel Management Engine to boot modern CPUs. All flipping that bit does is allows Intel Management Engine to run to turn on the computer, and then it disables it. So there are some computers out there that have it disabled out the box, such as my Purism Librem 14 laptop over here. This does not use the proprietary BIOSes. This is using an open source one based on Core Boot called Pure Boot, which is Purism's own take on it. And then it's using heads on top of it for hardware anti-tamper checking, things like that. I really think people need to move away from the idea of calling this a backdoor and that it's spyware, and understand it is a piece of IT software that can just be exploited. It's not intentionally a backdoor. If you ever work at enterprise level in IT management, it is a very beneficial thing. However, in the consumer space, it doesn't really have much value. Make sense?
Free, effective, high-quality, continuous, and real-time access to all data, including personal data that is generated through the use of LinkedIn. This is the
got your bachelor's in physics last year. Now I'm doing my master in astrophysics, and I hope someday maybe a PhD. Big on the maybe, of course. You gonna get that PhD? I don't know. It sounds like with all that work, you already got a pretty huge dick. That's a joke. But I mean, hey, dude, if you're doing it, go for it.
Microsoft decided to distract EU regulators in Brussels with what can only be described as a compliance theater. It was the API
Sup, High Impact?
we were talking about. And that's when LinkedIn started injecting malicious code into the browsers of their users without their knowledge or their consent. 6,222 software products specifically, maybe even more through the investigation, with a base of about 405 million people. And that's because LinkedIn knows each visitor's name, employer, and job title. Every detected extension is matched to an identified individual. And because LinkedIn knows where each user works, these individual scans aggregate into detailed profiles of companies, institutions, and government agencies, revealing which software tools their employees use without the organization's knowledge or consent. And obviously, most, if not all,
The search reveals political opinions of users through extensions like, I didn't even know some of these existed. No More Musk, anti-woke, anti-Zionist tag, religious beliefs through extensions like Porta AI, blur haram content. Didn't even know that was a thing, but I guess that makes sense. Kind of reminds me of like the kosher cell phones and what people used to sell when I was in Israel. Dean Shield blocks haram sites, disability and neurodivergence through extensions like Simplify for neurodivergent users, employment status through 509 job search extensions that reveal who is looking for work on the very platform where their current employer can see their profile. Trade secrets of millions of companies by mapping which organizations use competitor products. That's so jank.
companies have a privacy policy. So you'd think that LinkedIn would disclose all of this in there, right? Nope, LinkedIn has not disclosed this practice in its privacy policy. There is no mention of extension scanning.
Oh, they gonna get sued.
I'll leave a link to the browsergate.eu website in the comments, but basically here's some of the things that you can do to stop browsergate. One, check if your tools are on the list. Like I said, I'll leave the link in the description. Here's a list of extensions that LinkedIn scans for. This big ass list over here. Over 6,000 extensions over here. Definitely go ahead and look it up. Just enter your extension's name or...
Okay, to be fair, you really shouldn't have a lot of extensions on your browser. Mine are minimal. I have an ad blocker. I have a dark mode enforcer. I have Proton Pass. I have Bitwarden. And then I have a Lumo AI sidebar and a analytics tool for YouTube. That's it. There are some people out there that have like way more. Oh, and I have the little sponsor block thing too that I added to. But the point being, I don't have that many. I'd like to ask you a question. I'm from Ukraine. I'm just starting to study cybersecurity. What would you recommend? That's a broad question. What specifically are you asking me to recommend? No uBlock Origin? I use Ad Nauseam instead because it Fs with them a little bit more.
ID to see it in LinkedIn.
Them being the advertisers.
Like 10 seconds. Number two, obviously, just like with any of these, scandalous companies and situations, I mean, corruption is just so normalized nowadays. And like I said, Persona and by extension, Rick's song, I'm sure you guys are involved in this in some way. I do not trust you guys at all. Share this around, right? Share this video around, share the articles around that I'm going to put in the comments. Number four says, talk to the press. I mean, that's pretty similar to what we're talking about.
Yeah, everybody, go share this. Share this with everybody that you know. Share it with your mom. Share it with your dad, share it with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, share it with a whore. I only have a single extension and it's for downloading multiple files at once. Huh, which one is that? Excellent chef. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Do you recommend Linux Mint? It's a Linux. Do I recommend it? Does it work for you? That's the question.
About just share this around, share this video around, share the articles I put in the comments around, and just make sure that people know about this and go ahead and boycott LinkedIn. And they also have a legal fund over here that you can support because obviously LinkedIn might.
Or is use LinkedIn? Well, is your mom on there? It's batch camp. Okay. Is it really beginner friendly? I hear it's beginner friendly. I haven't used Linux Mint in years. Do I need to know programming in this area in cybersecurity? You don't need to know it, but it will be helpful. Not so much programming, more scripting. So in my years that I've been in this, I've maybe done PowerShell a handful of times, but I've mostly done Python and Bash. Those are basically the things that I've done for a lot of my things. You're not going to have to learn programming in terms of compiling and all that so much, unless you want to go down to that level of app sec and everything like that, which is a whole part of it.
take these guys to court and silence them.
Wait, how do you make your super chats print out? That's awesome. I have an extension with, there's a streamer called Nutty that makes these tools. I've been watching him for a while. It's StreamerBot. So I have StreamerBot tied into YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. So if like somebody subs on Twitch or donates biddies at a certain amount, they, you know, tip me through Stream Elements, which, you know, that's where the tips.chiefgeek3d.com goes. It'll print that out and also do a TTS. Super Chats, it'll go through and do that on YouTube. And it also does a few other things. Hold on. Let me look at the actions so I can actually tell you for sure. So for Twitch, cheers at a certain point, subs, resub, gift subscription, gift bombs, and raids. YouTube, new sponsor, super chat, gift membership received, and super stickers. Kick is sub, resub, gift subscription, and masked gift subscription. Stream Elements is tip and donation. It also integrates into Fourth Wall, which is my merch store. So if there's a donation, an order placed, or a subscription purchase through it, it'll trigger a receipt for any of those. The idea basically around it was I'm so ADHD that I tend to forget to acknowledge people. So this is right here so that I know I have to acknowledge it. And it works pretty damn well. That's cool. What's the printer? It is a Rongta... I forget the model. But it's just a laser thermal printer. You know, like a receipt printer you'd have at a register. This one does have networking capabilities. There is a nicer Epson. This one is just like 150 for this printer. The nicer Epson was like $400 or $500. And I didn't feel like expensing the money for that. But yeah, Nutty has some printers that he recommends for this project out there.
Through the sheer money that it's going to require to have this court case going. And you can also obviously send letters to your local data protection authority, Microsoft or LinkedIn directly, your national IT security authority, or your member of parliament or MEP in the United States, you know, your House of Representatives people or your senators. And you can also...
Speaking of receipts, I gotta like do something with all the receipts from yesterday too.
Demand that they disclose which extensions they
Getting all over.
When they scanned your browser, what data they stored, who they shared it with, and their legal basis for processing. Do not ask for the standard data export. Ask specifically for extension detection data, device fingerprinting data, and any records transmitted via their AED event and spectroscopy event tracking systems. Send a GDPR request, pre-filled template. And you can also file a complaint with your data protection authority, and you could register as a potential co-plaintiff because of LinkedIn.
Nice.
Case. You might actually be eligible to get some money. And yeah, this is a crazy situation. So yeah, once again, shout out to Fairlinked EV for all this research. You guys are doing some great work. Screw LinkedIn, and by extension, no pun intended.
Do you recommend any good browser in Windows? I currently use Brave. Brave is one of the few that I recommend. The browser that I'm currently using is Florp, which is a fork of Firefox. So as you can see, I use Firefox, Brave, Florp, and Chromium. Chromium is what's running my chat windows right now. I keep it purposely in a separate browser, so that's all separate. And the extension I use, Social Stream Ninja, for merging all the chats. They only have a Chrome version officially supported. They do have a Firefox version, but it's kind of iffy. But yeah, Florp and Brave are pretty much the two ones I use. If I need a Chromium-based browser, I go to Brave, but generally I use Florp. All right. So, that was the most recent video. Good God, you guys keep sending me lots of videos for me to go check out. I am never going to catch up on all this. We may have to, like, skip through some of these videos over time. Okay, so we've got Huawei's $20 billion R&D gamble from behind Asia. Alright, so... is this, like, an actual, like, news place or something like that? Alright, we'll see what this video is. That may That'll be one of the final things we'll do for the night. We got a couple of things, but yeah.
Where Silicon Valley titans dominate headlines, one blacklisted Chinese firm has quietly outspent almost all of them in the lab. Huawei. Yes, the same Huawei banned by the US, poured over $20 billion into research and development last year. That's more.
I really think the whole ban around Huawei, like, I understand why they said they did it. It is dumb, because the problem is with, like, these bans and stuff like that, is it doesn't stop the fact that we have to compete against those companies. And if we no longer have easy access to the technologies to understand what we're competing against, that makes us at a disadvantage. Like, look at how far China has advanced in technology, even without us being involved. Because China is competing against the USA, but it feels like a lot of the USA isn't trying to compete with China. And competition breeds the best results in products. I installed Linux Mint on a spare laptop when I started messing around with Linux. Not having to use a web browser to install applications is nice. I mean, yeah, it is really great to do things like that. When you say not having to use a web browser to install apps, I guess you're talking about just using your package manager, so with like Linux Mint, because it's Debian Ubuntu base kind of thing. You're talking about the apt package manager, I presume.
More R&D
using WebLibre on Android. Pretty cool browser, but a bit wonky to use. Huh.
Invest in a year.
What time does the stream end? Generally, I like to stream around 10-ish Eastern Standard Time, so about 2200 Eastern Standard, if we're putting that in the 24-hour clock.
How can a sanctioned company fighting for survival be out-innovating the world's richest firms in sheer research budget? Today, we'll venture inside Huawei.
Not a big fan of Firefox because it uses 90% of my CPU. I haven't had that issue with Firefox. It used to be a suck on performance, but Florp has done some optimizations on top of it.
Room of innovation to unravel this mystery.
From global champion to sanctioned survivor.
Pivot to research can't be understood without the backstory of its fall. Not long ago, Huawei was on top of the tech world. In the 2010s, it grew from a Chinese telecom supplier into a global smartphone leader.
Is this an AI voice that's doing all this shit? Because I don't know how long I'm going to be able to take this.
Even surpassing Apple in phone sales and challenging Samsung for the #1 spot. It was also the prime architect of 5G networks worldwide, poised to dominate next-generation infrastructure. Then came the storm. Since 2018, the US government has unleashed a barrage of sanctions aimed at Huawei, branding it a national security threat.
Yeah.
In 2018,
tell us something we didn't know.
The US Commerce Department added Huawei to its entity list, cutting off its access to American technology and components. Almost overnight, Huawei lost the right to use Google's Android software on its phones, and its partnerships with US chip makers and software vendors were thrown into doubt. Worse was yet to come. In 2020, Washington tightened the screws with a blanket ban on advanced semiconductors.
Because it has 6,000... I think you mean milliampere hours, not megahertz battery.
This move effectively
That's a pretty beefy battery.
The world's leading chip foundry, from manufacturing Huawei's cutting-edge Kirin processors. Huawei's lifeblood for premium smartphones and telecom gear was cut off. Allied countries like the UK, Australia, and Japan followed by excluding Huawei from 5G network rollouts under US pressure. The result? Huawei's smartphone business went into freefall, and its global 5G contracts faced intense scrutiny. In 2020, Huawei still managed record revenue, 891 billion yuan, as 5G deployments boomed. But by 2021, its sales collapsed by...
Okay, I don't know if I can really stand watching, listening to this AI voice there. It's bothering me. There's just little things where I'm like... I'm questioning its pronunciations on a lot of things, so we're just gonna move on to the next thing. I'm sorry. What the hell is this? Apps Grigo, sharing your screen instantly with others is free and you self-host? Oh. Interesting. I have to play with that later. Huh. I wanted to show some of my code, but either the stream lagged several seconds behind. Then I created Skrigo. It allows you to share your screen with good quality and low latency. Skrigo is an addition to existing software and only helps to share your screen. Huh. That's kind of cool. Goes bigger. Currently, biggest battery Oppo has a 7,000. Yeah, but you know, sometimes you don't want bigger, you want girth. That's at least what the ladies tell me. And for some of y'all,
emotional, damn it!
So instead of Discord screen share server, yeah, that's what it seems like to me. I'll have to play with it. Alright, so this article, the exact number of times you can clone a clone before things go horribly wrong. Somebody actually had to figure out, basically, the idea of if you clone a clone, like if you copy a VCR, at what point does it degrade? Alright, so according to a long-running study in Nature Communications, scientists in Japan have found that you can't just keep cloning clones of living things indefinitely and expect things to turn out okay in the end. Eventually, the chain of clones starts to collapse, like a VCR copy. Okay, that makes sense. For nearly 20 years, a research team led by, I'm going to mispronounce the shit out of this, Terahiko Wakayama at the University of Yamanashi has been serially cloning mice, meaning cloning a mouse, then cloning its clone, and then cloning that clone and onward for generations. Early results suggested that the chain could go on indefinitely, as the process kept producing healthy mice well into its 20th generation. And then things went awry. By the time the researchers passed the 25th generation, success rates began to decline. By generation 58, the cloned mice didn't survive beyond birth. Genome sequencing revealed what was going wrong. Mutations stacking up over time, especially large structural changes to DNA that don't get cleaned up in cloning the way they do in sexual reproduction. Interesting. That kind of throws a whole wrench into the whole Asgard situation, like in Stargate, when they were just clones. Interesting. What phone do I use? I have a Pixel 7a and an iPhone 15. I mostly use the iPhone 15. The Pixel 7a is graphene. I like it. I'm a clone for sure. Whatever floats your boat, Kara. But that is interesting. Alright. I guess we will end it possibly on... we got a couple of videos here. 2-Bit Da Vinci. This modular thorium reactor eats nuclear waste. Wait, didn't we do a video on this, like, earlier? If I'm not mistaken? I know we talked about thorium reactors, but this kind of looks similar to the thorium reactor we had in, another video.
When it comes to nuclear, we dig up uranium, use 1% of its energy, and bury the rest as waste for 100,000 years. It's a failure of imagination. This behind me is probably the world-leading example of a modular molten salt thorium reactor, and this could be a game changer for nuclear power.
You have to be IT help desk for how long to move cybersecurity rules. Generally, the rule of thumb is like anywhere from 1 to 3 years of experience is what you're going to need in IT. But having just help desk isn't always the thing. You want to move to different IT roles. You're here, you got distracted by Robot Chicken on TikTok. I mean, Robot Chicken is awesome.
To figure out how this works, I've flown out to Copenhagen to meet with Copenhagen Atomics just to see how they've had to make radical breakthroughs in new pumps to be able to pump 600-degree molten salt around without failing for 5 years, all the way to new lithium extraction technologies. Yes, there's lithium involved. That's an interesting
Wait, what?
And there's so much more. So in this episode, we're going to see just how this works and how amazing this could be. I'm Ricky, and this is Stupid Da Vinci. This video is brought to you by Mammoth. The biggest problem with nuclear power today isn't safety, it's economics. Traditional nuclear power plants are like medieval cathedrals, massive bespoke civil engineering projects.
I'm a big proponent of nuclear energy,
Over budget. Copenhagen Atomics has taken a page,
especially thorium.
They don't want to build cathedrals, they want to build cars. Their design is a thorium molten salt reactor that fits entirely inside a standard 40-foot shipping container.
So we did talk about this in a different video.
Instead of building a reactor on a muddy construction site, they plan to manufacture them on a gigafactory on an assembly line. Their target, 1 reactor per day per line. By moving construction,
Damn, I didn't know about that part.
labor cost, and iterate instantly. If reactor 50 has a minor flaw, reactor 51 fixes it.
Why do people hate nuclear energy? Because a lot of people think about Chernobyl, and they think about the issues with improperly managed nuclear systems. But with the technologies we have today, nuclear meltdowns are not really as much of a thing as they once were, and it's still one of the cleanest forms of energy that we have. I know a lot of people will point to like renewable energies such as wind, solar, hydro, geothermal, but the issue with wind is you have to find areas where the wind is blowing well enough, and the wind is not always blowing. The issue with solar is, well, it can only be good for, depending on where you are in the world, 10 to 14 hours per day, give or take, because the sun's only shining so long, and it will also, you know, not be as great in certain parts of the year, and if it's cloudy, things like that. Geothermal, there's a lot of expense that goes into that. Hydro, same thing, and hydro also can mess with the environment in other ways that a lot of people seem to forget, because it messes up, you know, migration paths of fish, and, you know, diverts entire water streams and can mess with the ecology. And the one problem with nuclear energy is a lot of people also point to, well, one of the problems is they point to nuclear waste. But France has actually been able to recycle nuclear waste, I think like up to 95%, if I'm not mistaken. And in the USA, we don't do that. And thorium, which is what we're talking about here, can actually use the nuclear waste we've already been using to create fuel. So thorium is really great. Short of nuclear fusion energy, or just fusion energy, cold fusion, we don't really have better choices. Fusion is the holy grail. Cold fusion is the holy grail, where you can actually, instead of splitting atoms to make energy, because you're basically breaking the bonds of the atoms and the energy holding them together and capturing that, you are now fusing atoms together and all that, and potentially, from my understanding, it's a lot safer than fission. But that's basically what it comes down to. Aren't wind turbines just for decoration? No. Wind turbines are very capable. We were talking about in a few streams ago, there are turbines out there that are able to produce megawatts. Even fields with gigawatts with not that many wind turbines. The hydropower I've seen was pumping water to a fan and back into the lake. Huh. That's fuel reprocessing. There is contaminated stuff that is actually waste that can't be cleaned. That is waste as well. It must be purified. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for nuclear. Okay, fair enough.
Look at an estimate of what that does to the price tag. A traditional Gen 3 Plus nuclear reactor costs anywhere from $6,000 to $15,000 per kilowatt of electricity capacity.
That is
That's
pretty
why the
expensive.
development plant in Georgia costs over $30 billion. But target costs for a factory-built modular reactor are around $50 million for a 100 megawatt unit.
That is a lot more palatable.
To electric conversion efficiency of 40% using modern supercritical CO2 turbines, that gives us a 40 megawatt electric output. This is a disruption of the energy market on the scale of the transition from horse-drawn carriages to automobiles.
Wow.
Molten reactors aren't new. We built them in the 1960s. In fact, we made an in-depth video a few weeks ago about a thorium molten salt reactor, which we'll link below. But CA has radically changed the internal geometry. They patented their design as the onion core. Most molten salt reactors use graphite to slow down neutrons. But graphite degrades under radiation and becomes radioactive waste. CA uses heavy water, D2O, instead.
If we zoom into the core, and this up here is like a
Wait, is that deuterium, if I'm not mistaken, or is that something totally different?
very early prototype, just made to run with water. Call it
I have an important question. What difference of 16 gigabyte of RAM and price? One is expensive and others are cheap. It's kind of hard to say. Could be DDR4, could be DDR5. It could be the timings. It could be the manufacturing. Memory market is really weird right now.
onion core, but it's several concentric.
Or adds so long, it's 1380.
And a blanket salt.
The onion design arranges the reactor in concentric bloated cylinders that look pretty much like an onion when cut in half. The center is an unpressurized heavy water moderator. The middle, the fuel salt, thorium plus uranium. The outside, a blanket of thorium salt to catch leaking neutrons and breed new fuel.
The reason for this choice of this design is this sphere. That means that we make the reactor really, really efficient. Because neutrons, when they are born, they go in all directions, right? So to make a perfect reactor, sort of in terms of efficiency, we want to make a sphere. And that makes the reactor crazy efficient. That's why we can make a breeder reactor and not just a burner reactor.
Coming on site combined with our research beforehand really helps us bring these stories to life. And when it comes to research, there's a new tool that's really been helping out our team. This is Mammoth. And instead of paying $20 a month for...
Okay, another AI tool. We've already seen this before. Skip. Next.
Here you have essentially something that is below 100 degrees. Here you have 600-700 degrees. Below
Do you know cigarette used a lot in China like this? What do you mean?
degrees in the blanket salt.
This creates a massive engineering challenge. You have heavy water, which must stay below 100 degrees Celsius, sitting just...
For a long time, I had a processor go up in price when the semiconductor shortage was at its height. That was wild. It tripled in price. Oh, yeah, it's crazy right now. Like, the memory inside my servers and everything, like, tripled what it was.
centimeters away from molten salt at 700 degrees Celsius. The patent covers the specific vacuum insulated barriers and thermal insulators that make this thermal separation possible. If that heat crosses the barrier, the water boils and the reactor shuts down.
The reactor is a molten salt reactor, so it has a liquid fuel, molten salt, and it's a fluoride salt that we operate from 600 to 700 degrees. But this salt, in order to go critical, we use a moderator, and for this we use heavy water. And heavy water has several advantages. The primary is that it has a very good neutron economy, and that basically means that it's very good at slowing down neutrons and not eating any of those neutrons, so that they can lead to fission in the uranium or capture in thorium to produce new uranium for the reactor. The other advantage is that since it's a liquid, it doesn't really suffer any degradation from the radiation of the reactor, because inside the reactor there's very high levels of radiation. So any solids material will slowly degrade over time and need to be replaced. But with a liquid, we can actually maintain it and keep it indefinitely. And we then also have thermal insulation made of graphite felt in between the salt vessels and the water vessels to keep them cool. There is basically a bit more than an inch of insulation in between. But then, does that ever need
This is going deeper than the last video we saw about this.
The core goes as well. So all the vessels that are in the core and the insulation and sensors and pumps, all that gets scrapped and gets recycled.
They get cigarette each other since a lot of people smoke cigarettes in China.
Now, besides molten salt, nuclear...
It's a nasty gift I don't want to get.
Other applications of molten salt for energy generation. Remember that billion-dollar solar thermal plant that failed a couple of years ago? That used mirrors to concentrate solar energy and store it in hot molten salt. But the plant had so many technical challenges, from corrosion to leaks and all sorts of problems, that it eventually shuttered. Make sure to check out that video. We'll have links down below. But ultimately, what we found when making these kinds of videos is that working with molten salt is really hard.
Oh, I can see.
Developing these molten salt loops. Back here we have a furnace with electrical heating. We have a tank with salt, and then we circulate the salt. And this is a test platform where we have filters, a valve.
I'm not educated enough on this, but I noticed that a lot of different things are using molten salts.
Pressure sensors, flow meters, all the things you need to build a reactor. We test that here and do optimizations, we reconfigure them, and then once completed, we put them into the testing area next door here. So they are just running day and night, year round. The gloves are so that we can do, if you need to adjust something, you can just put your hands in there and do the adjustment and then keep it running.
So that's molten salt at temperature,
Pumping around just like you would do in a reactor. And it's for test and validation of all our technologies.
600 degrees sounds very challenging. How do you withstand that kind of temperature safely for, you mentioned some of these have been running for a year nonstop.
Yeah, they're running for several years nonstop. Everything here is made from stainless steel.
That machine looks like it'd give good hugs.
316L, and 316L is
What's up, Fooge?
adequate for these temperatures. And people always wonder about corrosion from molten salts. But if you have a purified molten salt,
Says salt handles a thing of table salt. The thorium salt might be a bit much to handle. Looks like bad dragon toys. You nasty. You nasty.
salt, it's absolutely non-corrosive. It's the impurities that makes it corrosive. So rather than use expensive alloys, we have chosen to develop engineering controls where we keep the salt clean at all times. And then the corrosion is sort of like vanishingly low, a few microns per year. So corrosion is not really something we bother about anymore.
In any fluid system, the pump is usually the main point of failure. In a nuclear reactor, you can't just send
Makes
a
sense.
wrench to fix a leaky seal.
Yeah.
It's radioactive.
Yeah.
Achilles heel of molten salt.
Honey, why are you glowing in the night? Why have you turned into a nightlight? Well, I had to do work on that radioactive pump. Oh, okay, you just sleep on the couch. Yeah, I ain't gonna go like that.
Designs. Now, this is where things get amazing, because Copenhagen Atomic...
I wonder how salty that salt is on a pickle. What the... This factory was sponsored by Bad Dragon, the horse
And here's
voice.
why this patent here is worth millions. It handles the extreme heat of the salt running at 700 degrees C.
To develop the technology,
If the salt is conductive and it is below the Curie point, they can pump it without any mechanical pumps. They may be using magneto-hydrodynamics. Oh.
before going to a commercial reactor, we needed pumps, and there wasn't any pumps.
I think you're right. Because if we look, that's a lot of copper around it, that they look like electromagnets over here. Okay, that's interesting to learn.
that are commercially available for our type of environment, which is 600 to 700 degrees. And so that poses, of course, a bunch of different challenges. And so we
Have you seen multiple CEO eat the meal, their own meals like McDonald's? Yeah, we actually showed that video and made fun of McDonald's a few weeks ago on stream.
have basically decided to develop our own pump. We first developed this pump over here, which is a can pump, but it happens so that we can not use permanent magnets, but we can use ferromagnetic material like iron, and we can use copper at these temperatures. It's just below the Curie temperature where iron demagnetizes, but these temperatures it still work.
Okay, there you go, Felton X, you were right.
Windings and use low voltage and high currents. And then the other part of this pump is that it uses hydrodynamic bearings. So it basically doesn't have a ball bearing with the rolling elements, but we're also developing another type of pump that's called AMB, or active magnetic bearing pump, where we have the same stator design and the same pump volute.
I wonder if RB CEO is eating his burger.
The hydrodynamic bearings are like a wearing surfaces, so while they do tend
Well, Arby's does sliced meats, if I'm not mistaken.
So instead here,
Yeah.
we're using these
They got the meats.
magnetic coils to levitate the rotor, and that means that the whole rotor assembly is levitating in the salt, and all the coils are still.
Wait, what?
But now we don't have any mechanical.
He got that whole pump doing Leviosa. Can't believe I remember that spell.
Touching surface, So the longevity
Nerd alert.
can be much longer and operate for 5 years at a time in a reactor without needing any maintenance.
This part.
Wow.
Because the reactor is a black box. Once it's
5 years continuous at those temperatures? Yeah.
spent fuel. But
That machine looks like a bomb. It essentially is. It essentially is. It's a controlled nuclear fission reaction using thorium. It essentially is a bomb. But it is a bomb to generate energy that we can then capture to generate electricity. Like, if you think about it, at the fundamental level of, if you think about it, at the fundamental level, there's not much difference between a nuclear power plant and a nuclear atom bomb. They both work basically around similar principles. Of course, how they're architected and engineered and designed and implemented are wildly different, but they both work on the principle of the energy of all of these bonds holding together and splitting that.
Even if it's cheap and efficient, people are going to ask, do I really want a nuclear reactor in a shipping container sitting in my industrial park? And the answer is yes. No, I don't think anyone would say yes, but
I'm okay with it.
CA's answer to this is something they call the cocoon. The reactor container doesn't just sit out in the open. It slides into a massive solid steel bunker that weighs 1,000 tons. This cocoon has steel walls that are 20 inches thick. The purpose of this beast is threefold. One, external protection.
One is a matter of microseconds, the other years.
Crashes into a factory, like just a total accident, not even an intentional attack. What if a missile?
It's good to know.
The cocoon is designed to deal with this. You could drop a 747 on it, and the reactor inside would likely remain intact. It also acts as a massive shield, keeping all radiation safely contained so workers can work around the facility without protective gear.
So you have to actively pump the fuel salt and the blanket salt into the reactor core in order for it to go critical. And that's what we mean by passive safety, because if you cut power to the pump, gravity will drain the salt back into the storage tank, and you wait for the power to come back, and then you can start producing energy again.
Interesting.
What exactly is this wonder fuel, and why do we think it could be even better than fusion? We've done a deep dive on
Your
thorium.
1 gigabyte of graphic card good. 1 gigabyte's kind of low these days. My smallest has
Why this fuel is a
6 gigabytes outside of my
It's rare.
server
only
ones.
1% of natural uranium. It's expensive to enrich and produces waste that stays radioactive for tens of hundreds of thousands of years. Copenhagen Atomics plans to use the thorium breeder cycle. It's abundant and already mined. Thorium is a byproduct of rare earth mining. It's 1,000 times more abundant than U-235. It's literally dirt cheap. Raw thorium fuel is about 80 times cheaper per kilogram than uranium, costing just $60 per kilogram versus over $4,500 for enriched uranium. Now, here's the killer feature. The final commercial reactor is designed to start with a Kickstarter of transuranic waste. Current nuclear waste needs to be stored for 100,000 years. CA reactor waste and the fusion products from processed nuclear waste need storage for only 300 years. Now, this seems like a lot, but we have buildings over 300 years old. This is a manageable engineering problem, not an existential civilizational threat. Compare that to having a high dangerous waste for 100,000 years. How do you even label the site so that generations millennia from now don't accidentally think that they came across an interesting archaeological site only to die from radiation poisoning or cancer?
What does spent fuel look like in your reactor?
When we run the reactor and it reaches equilibrium after 10, 20 years, basically the fuel salt doesn't change whether you run it for 50 or 100 years. So if you ever wanted to dispose of this fuel and you say we don't want to use molten salt reactors anymore, it's been 500 years and now we have something better, then you could start to slowly burn the fissile material without adding new fertile material, so without producing new uranium, and just slowly burn all the fissile material you have while still removing fission products. And because you do this very efficient process where you remove the fission products, You could burn a fleet of 100,000 reactors down to a few hundred reactors and only need to dispose of the waste of those few hundred reactors. But this is a problem for several hundred years in the future, so, you know.
That's amazing.
There's other solutions as well.
But the question we always ask in these videos
is it true that if graphic card old, the CPU overheats? No.
What has kept the industry from going down the thorium route over the past 70 years? Beyond the hot molten salt loop we already talked about, this brings up the most complex physics challenge Copenhagen Atomics had to solve. It's not the thorium, it's the salt. Well, it's actually the lithium in the salt, to be precise.
Wait,
Our reactor
what?
uses uranium and thorium, and we use those as fluorides, so uranium tetrafluoride and thorium tetrafluoride. Both of those have melting points above 1,000 degrees Celsius, and we don't have materials to build a reactor that runs 1,000 degrees Celsius, so we need to lower the melting point to have the salts be liquid. And so for that...
So what do? Throw it in a vacuum?
Lowers the melting point.
Oh, no. Okay.
How alcohol will lower the melting point of water if you mix them together. So we create a eutectic of uranium and thorium separately with lithium fluoride to lower the melting point, and that lowers the melting point for uranium to 490 degrees Celsius and for thorium to 550 degrees Celsius. And so that means that when you go to 600 degrees, those are both liquid and are well above their melting points, and you can pump them around.
So what happens to lithium-7?
So when we take the natural lithium and we separate it, we have our own process to doing the enrichment on the lithium.
Dude, do I need to change CPU, not heat?
And we mix it with uranium.
If your CPU's overheating, that's either thermal paste is dried out and needs to be replaced, or your heatsink is not adequate.
It just sits there acting as something.
Or airflow. Combination of the three, too.
But it
This
doesn't
possibility.
do anything. It doesn't contribute to the chain reaction. It has very slight moderation effects, almost nothing. So it doesn't degrade. So it just stays there. And when we've used the salt and put in a new reactor,
Oh, you have a laptop? Probably need to clean the heatsink and
and it just stays there.
repaste the CPU.
The nuclear fuel dissolved in molten lithium fluoride salt. The lithium carries the fuel, but natural lithium is a mixture of lithium-7 and lithium-6. So what gives? Well, it turns out that lithium-6 is a neutron poison. To understand why this is, you have to understand how the thorium fuel cycle works. In a normal reactor, you have uranium or plutonium as fuel. You hit them with a neutron.
Right.
They break up, releasing on average 2.5 neutrons. You need one of these neutrons to break up another atom to keep the reaction going. But you have to capture the rest in control rods to avoid a runaway chain reaction and a nuclear meltdown. But with thorium, things are different. Thorium itself isn't fissile. When you hit it with a neutron, it turns into uranium-233, which is not only fissile, but much more energy efficient than uranium-235. That's the actual fuel that generates the power and the 2.5 neutrons. So in this case, you need one neutron to split uranium-233 and generate power, and one spare neutron to breed more uranium from the thorium fuel.
Okay.
If you have lithium-6 around, it'll suck up all the spare neutrons and kill the reaction like tossing water over a campfire. But lithium-7 is completely transparent to neutrons. Times less likely to absorb a neutron than lithium-6.
So how important is it to separate the lithium-6 and 7? If let's say if you didn't do that, would it still work? It would just be less ideal?
The reactor wouldn't even go critical, and you would need like much higher enrichment in order for our reactor geometry to go critical. And you could use other materials to lower the melting point, but then you wouldn't be able to breed in thermal spectrum. So it's sort of a choice between, do you want a reactor that just burns uranium like light water reactors, or uses other more readily available salts?
No, Tor is not a good browser for daily use.
And this isotopic separation of lithium is much easier than uranium. So with uranium hexafluoride, there's basically 100th mass difference.
If you're not in an oppressive state, don't worry about having to use Tor daily.
Where for lithium, it's lithium-6 and 7, so it's 1/7 mass difference. So it's a much bigger mass difference. So it's a lot simpler process and doesn't require as much energy to do the separation. And so we need to enrich the natural occurring lithium.
Why is it because of onion? No, it's because you don't need it. It's gonna slow things down and all of that for your daily browsing. And if you're using it as a daily browser, the implication is that you're going to be logging into things and handing out your information. Tor is meant to be helping you with an anonymity. So it's a matter of, could you use it for that? Yes, but it's not the right tool for the job. If you're just using a daily browser and you don't have any freedom concerns in your state government or that, just use a regular browser. If you're in an oppressive regime, then you would probably be looking at something like Tor. Or you need to, you know, communicate anonymously or access the darknet or something like that.
To be very high abundance in lithium-7, so natural lithium is roughly 5% lithium-6, and we need to be below 0.01.
Wow.
Lithium-6.
So how do you refine that?
The only known processes to get that grade of lithium-7 are lab scale and produce a few grams at most. But you need 3 tons of salt per reactor. How on earth do you manage that? Well, this gets to what really is at the heart of the breakthrough. Copenhagen Atomics decided to invent a new way to refine lithium. They don't talk too much about it on their website or investor decks because, well, that patent is still pending. But we did find the patent application. It's kind of like a still to get moonshine, only it's to get super pure lithium.
Really?
They use a vacuum chamber with a heated bottom plate, evaporator, and a cooled top plate, the condenser. Instead of complex pumps or gravity feeds that require precise leveling, they use capillary members to transport the molten lithium. The lithium-6 is lighter, so it evaporates slightly faster. It condenses on the top plate and flows backward via the wicks, while the heavier lithium-7 stays on the bottom and flows forward.
That's interesting.
Because of these stages in a single unit, they can separate the isotopes without using a single drop of mercury. And the best part? It's a continuous flow system. When I started the research for this video, I didn't really realize that a lithium extraction process would be at the heart of what makes it so possible. But
I didn't think that would be the thing we needed either.
Been around for a while. Some of these things have been done before, but this might be that thing that we always ask, why isn't it everywhere? It might be this.
Tor is slow. Expect speeds of less than 128K. I wouldn't say that low. I've gotten a few megabits on Tor, believe it or not.
They'll own the reactors. They'll own the liability. They'll own the
Do you have a tier list for Linux distros? No, not really. Just use the one that works best for you.
Isn't necessarily the grid. It's heavy industry. I'm talking aluminum smelting, ammonia production, and hydrogen generation. This could open a new era for red hydrogen, aka nuclear hydrogen. Since the age of nuclear, we've seen other technologies like airplanes advance so far, and that's because we've had a chance to iterate plane by plane. But with nuclear, we've seen plants that are 30, 40 years old, and just when we've had new breakthroughs and new ideas, we've seen people turn their back to nuclear. And some of the reasons why we've seen that happen can be addressed and solved with something like this. This is portable and modular. This is built.
People always put Arch at top.
On site.
I don't.
And it's inherently.
It's not a good production system.
You could completely
and Arch users don't really touch grass.
This is the nuclear component. What you do with this high heated molten salt is up to you. You can run steam turbines, produce electricity. You can power district heating areas with this. What happens from here is kind of up to you. But what if
LINAR or small reactors? Oh, well, we haven't really looked at a lot of those. This has been more about thorium.
For an AI training cluster that needs 40 to 50 megawatts of flat, reliable power 24/7, this could be the holy grail. You drop 2 containers in the parking lot, one for redundancy, and you're off the grid. And the best part? You're looking at lower energy costs than solar with targets of $20 to $30 per megawatt hour. We could do some quick back of the napkin calculations, but it turns out
that want to have fun, run an exit node and log the exit traffic. People don't expect that and don't encrypt it. Jeez. You can read congressional emails. Oh, God.
A lot of those overheads, right? The regulatory approvals, massive building structures, and everything else. And by being a thorium breeder reactor, you can actually make your own fuel and completely control and be better with utilization of resources. There's so much love about this tech. But what do you think? How big of a game changer could this be? Could this be what we need to see a renaissance of nuclear power? Sound off in the comments below. And until next week, I'm Rico Da Vinci. Thank you so much for watching.
I would love to see that actually become more of a popular thing. That'd be great to see. All right, let's see. What was the next? We have a couple of smaller videos we can at least go through before we call it a night, and we had an article, a couple articles here. So yeah, let's see. What did Vampire share? What the hell? A magic 8-ball that plugs into OBD? Holy shit! It's an OBD diagnostic tool that does. I love it. I love it. I need it. Homemade soup.
Just stew, bowl of whatever on the menu, bowl of whatever the fuck, buddy. It's making the concept of stew.
What the hell is that?
Just made some bullshit, cooking leftovers from scratch.
Jesus.
Bubble, bubble, toil and trouble. Ah, yes, grandmother's famous brickle, brackle, hot water salad. The seasonings are all standing by like they're at a funeral. Grocery list mixed up. What's not?
What are these, just Instagram comments? Why are we singing it? Jesus.
I love eating straight up objects and items. What do you want in your soup? Yes, soup of the day. Bowl of nonsense. Ah, yes, a nice hot bowl of lost and found in miscellaneous items. Bro, just picked up the fridge and took it into the pot. Cooking up a nice pot of all of the above, seasoned with salt and vinegar and everything sinister.
What the hell was that? Have you tried Helium browser? No, I have not. I'm happy with my Flort browser. I was on Firefox for years. This is really off topic, but do you have any recommendations for safe but free VPNs? Generally speaking... before we get into this article. So... recommendations for safe but free VPNs. Generally speaking, if you are not paying for the product, you are the product. And that applies to VPNs as well. The majority of free VPNs out there are logging and collecting your data to sell it to third parties and such as that. The question you need to ask yourself is, one, why are you even looking at a VPN in the first place? And two, VPNs generally, most of them are not expensive. Yes, you can use Proton and their free VPN package, but the reality is, I think on the free plan, you can't really point it exactly where you want to go, whereas on the, maybe you can, but I know on the paid for version, it's definitely faster and stuff like that. But if you're using a VPN, are you using it just so that you can go around torrenting and getting around geoblocks on things? Or do you have the misconception that a VPN somehow will make you more secure by virtue of you using a VPN when you're not on, say, a public network? Because if you're using a VPN in your own home, you're not really doing as much as you think you are. And all you've done, if the answer is, well, I don't trust my ISP from logging and all of that, is you've moved the boundary of trust from the ISP seeing your stuff to the VPN provider seeing your stuff. So, you need to ask yourself, why are you doing it in the first place? Not everyone needs a VPN. They're useful tools as long as you know the limitations and things about it. A lot of people missell and overhype them as like, oh, it'll make all of your traffic more safe and secure. I only use a VPN when I am traveling and I'm on public internet, when I want to get around geoblocks, and when I am, you know, like I mentioned, the torrents in some situations, but not all torrents are of a legal issue. So, yeah. Mulvad is not a free VPN as much as I remember, as much as I recall. I use a VPN and their Linux support is a zip file of OpenVPN configs. I mean, yeah, you can totally do that. I generally tend more to WireGuard, but yeah. Is it hard to make VPN with tools? What do you mean? No, it's... a VPN is a protocol. That's all it is. The most common ones are IPsec. A lot of businesses use that. OpenVPN and WireGuard. Those are the most common ones that I've come across in my career in the past few years. They're just a protocol. That's all it is. And all you're doing is you're encapsulating your traffic to go over that protocol. That's all you're doing. You're tunneling it. You're tunneling it from one end to the other. And the misconception that people have around VPNs is that a VPN is there just to anonymize your IP or do that. No, that's a byproduct of what its true purpose is, which is merely to transmit data over two different endpoints in a tunnel. So imagine you're a business and you have store A over here or a warehouse over here, and you want it to connect back to warehouse B over here, and they happen to be different cities, different states, different ISPs, all that. You can make a site-to-site VPN between both, and they both can see each other's resources that you allow it to without a physical connection between the two directly. By virtue of the fact that you're tunneling out and then you're allowing it to tunnel all the traffic over it, that's what a lot of people are using a VPN for these days. Oh, like make your own VPN? It's not hard. It's not hard. You just gotta get a server to host it and then connect to it. So like on my pfSense firewall, I could easily make one up on OpenVPN or WireGuard and then maybe hook that up to dynamic DNS because I don't have a static IP. And then as long as I connect to, like, say, I make a address of like vpn.chiefgeek3d.com. That'll automatically adjust to that, and then I can connect to that VPN over that into my residential internet and then be able to tunnel into anything that I use here. I actually kind of used to do something like that before I decommissioned that VPN to do remote access. I've moved to TwinGate using Zero Trust Network Access. That's a whole other concept we're not going to get into in this discussion. And you can either do what's called a split tunnel, which means you only send specific traffic over that tunnel. So that happens on a lot of corporate VPNs. So you're accessing corporate resources, goes over VPN. But a full tunnel will tunnel all the traffic over that VPN pipe. So you could do a full tunnel back to your home, for example, and then have it always using your residential home internet. And then you could have the advantage of it can use your firewall's IDS, IPS intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems and do logging and execute things upon all that if you wanted. I know some people are like, well, I don't want logging. If you're talking about security, logging is not a horrible thing when it's on your own infrastructure. You actually kind of need it to correlate threats. But when you're talking about privacy and anonymity, those are a different issue. There are ways you can do it, and there's softwares out there like pre-tunnel, I think it's called. That's an open source suite that you can easily spin this up. They have a free version, and you can like maybe spin it up on like Hetzner or DigitalOcean or something like that, and you can easily spin up something like this. Pre-tunnel, which they have, as you can see, Community Edition. You can spin up a single server with unlimited users. So you can do that. There's enterprise licensing and all that, so you can have all these different features in there. So they have that. You can build your own OpenVPN or WireGuard server remotely, do the same thing. So it's not difficult. It's just a matter of configuration and is it of value to you? I was told it was a good idea to use a VPN when I'm on Fire Stick to get apps like Stream.io. I'm not familiar with Stream.io. Generally speaking, most people in a consumer residential space that are trying to use a VPN are using it to avoid law enforcement for DMCA, copyrighted issues and all that, as I wear my fixed copyright EFF t-shirt. How appropriate. That's primarily what the recommendation is there. How many hours are we talking? Depends on, how deep you want to go into it. I can spin one of these bad boys up in like 5, 10, 15 minutes. But I know what I'm doing. But also, when you're running a VPN server yourself, You have to ask yourself, are you willing to maintain it? And what happens if it gets compromised? So you can set up the VPN server in like 5, 10, 15 minutes, but then you have to do all the hardenings around it. You know, you want to lock down your SSH access. You want to get your IP tables and firewalls set. Like, I use uncomplicated firewall for a lot of that. Limiting SSH connections, setting into SSH keys. Then you're going to do a lot of the additional hardenings in, like, syscontrol.conf, I think it is, where you, like, do things like block Martians and all that. There's, you know, then you're going to want to worry about updates. So I set automatic updating and patching, and then notifications that go over that I have set to go either over Slack, Matrix, Teams, or Discord to alert me when things happen. I now stream IO. You don't need VPN. Okay, you don't? Okay. You have a question. What's your question? And then while we're waiting for them to type out the question. Funny thing is, I don't understand why people are like, hey, I have a question. Can I ask you a question? Just come in and ask the question. I'm cool with that. Not hating on you, I'm just saying. Kentucky farm family rejects $26 million offer for 600 acres of land from unnamed AI data center suitor. Declines 7x offer, wants to stay and hold and feed a nation. You know what? Applause to this family. Not a lot of people can turn down that kind of money. $26 million. That's generational wealth, life-changing kind of money. Ida Huddlestone, 82, owned about 1,200 acres of farmland in the area that sells at about $6,000 an acre. Wow. However, a realtor showed up at their doorstep last year offering Huddlestone, her and her daughter, Delcia Bear, more than 7 times the going rate for the area. Many other people would have jumped at this offer, but the family didn't budge. My grandfather and great-grandfather and a whole bunch of family have all lived here for years, paid taxes on it, fed a nation off of it, Bear said, even raised wheat through the Depression and kept bread lines up in the United States of America when people didn't have anything else. Wow. Yeah, props to them. That wouldn't be easy to turn down, but also, I'm tired of all these AI data centers building all the random shit here. Because you know what's going to end up happening when this bubble pops? What's going to happen to all this infrastructure? There are going to be bankruptcies eventually over AI, and there is going to be infrastructure that's going to have to be looked after and how that's going to go. But yeah. Next article, Flipper Zero pen testing tool gets an AI-powered companion app. Natural language interface allows for faster, easier hacking. If you have smart glasses, you can even pretend you're Case from Neuromancer. Yeah, we all know that. A new project called Vesper aims to change that by using an AI model and an Android app for easily and quickly controlling the flipper. Okay, so basically you pair up your flipper to your Android phone and have it talk to it, is what I'm reading. Yep, and then you're basically just using, their models over here, so like, look at that. And then they're like, new research. I'd hook that up to my Olama server, maybe just to play with it. I'd have to find where I put my flipper. I haven't used that in a while. Hold on. Let me see. Here's a LinkedIn article from one of my buddies. Alright. They're public. They shared this. This week, the widely used Light LLM library was compromised in a real-world supply chain attack. This is a big deal. 2 malicious versions of the package were published to PyPy, which is the repository for Python libraries, v1.82.7 and .8, embedding an info stealer capable of extracting API keys, SSH keys, cloud credentials, tokens, wallets, and more. This was not a typo squat. This was a real package trusted by millions of developers. Light LLM. Okay. Yeah. This attack was not isolated as part of a broader campaign, Team PCP, that compromised CI/CD pipelines, stole signing keys and secrets, pivoted across tools like Trivy, Checkmarks, and Light LLM. Oh. Those are some high-name targets. So this goes back into the concept that I talked about with CI/CD, which is artifacting. I didn't go too much into it in the video that I have recorded talking about CI/CD. I may touch on that at a different point. Artifacting is basically the ability for you to have packages that are approved and even signed that you can be going into the environment. So generally speaking, in an enterprise, you shouldn't go just straight to pypy.org, download the latest version, or go to npm and then install the latest version. You should have it proxy into a repository that your company has to control known good versions. So there's policies where it's checking those beforehand and, you know, releasing what versions are approved. So you may be N-2, so you may not be on the latest version, but you may be 2 behind because we know it's safe unless there's an exception in the policy. And when it's building, it pulls from that artifact repository. A lot of CI/CD pipelines are not doing that. And that's a problem. That's the platform I told you about to use that one cache for torrent. Oh, okay. Is Cloud Thing scam or is paying Cloud make more storage? I don't know what you mean by that. Yeah. And then Supreme Court rejects Sony's attempt to kick music pirates off the internet. We talked about this yesterday. There was a video. Although, yeah, this is the same case. So we already talked about this last stream. But basically, Cox ruling affirms ISPs are not copyright police. I mean, is cloud good digital, good storage digital? Well, define good. It depends on your use case. I use a mix of on-prem and cloud. Neuralink patient raiding in World of Warcraft after only 100 days of having the implant installed calls it pure magic, exploring Azeroth hands-free at full speed. So, I think this is the disabled dude that got the Neuralink implant and, or one of the people, and yeah, they've been able to play video games and all that. I'm okay with this kind of tech that actually is, helping people, restore their capability. Surgery on day 0 was surprisingly easy. A quick general anesthetic. I'm not going to read on X, but yeah. That's cool. We got 2 more articles before I'm going to call it a night. Using a VPN may subject you to NSA spying. So we talked about this a little bit where, because your VPN essentially, I didn't show the screen. So, using a VPN may subject you to NSA spying. So, U.S. lawmakers are pressuring Tulsi Gabbard to reveal whether using a VPN can strip Americans of their constitutional protections against warrantless surveillance. So, basically, this is something we talked about on prior streams, where, by virtue of you using a VPN, and many people use VPNs to route them outside of the country, the NSA says, oh, if that traffic's going, internationally, capture that data. Because they just have this default approach of, if foreign, inspect. Because, they apparently say that you don't have constitutional rights, whatever. And the question then becomes, if an American is getting spied on unconstitutionally just because they're using a VPN connection, and we're trying to figure out the answer for that. But basically, yeah. Because the VPNs obscure their true location, and because intelligence agencies presume that communications of unknown origin are foreign, Americans may be inadvertently waiving the privacy protections they're entitled to under the law. Irony, isn't it? Uses a VPN to be more private, waives privacy protections because they're using a VPN. Catch-22, isn't it? What CPU brand good, AMD or Intel? I personally have used AMD for a few years, but people are also saying good things about Intel lately with one of their latest generations. I mean, it comes down to what you're, really wanting to do and your budget and all that. Apple gives FBI a real users, Apple gives FBI a user's real name hidden behind Hide My Email feature. Yeah. There's a lot of people that mistakenly think the aliasing features and all that. Like, Proton has the same capability with simple login, and in Proton Pass, you can use it to alias your accounts. I use it very heavily, but I use it more to reduce my blast radius and a compromise. Yeah. Apple provided the FBI with the real iCloud email address hidden behind Apple's Hide My Email feature, which lets paying iCloud Plus users generate anonymous email addresses, according to a recently filed court record. Yeah, this shouldn't really surprise anyone. Apple is of the business of protecting your encrypted data, but this is not one of those things. It's the same issue with Proton. So, Proton, people were getting bitchy because they gave over their payment information and the recovery email information of activists and stuff like that, which is information they have access to, and say that if law enforcement contacts them, we'll have to hand it over. Apple's in the same boat. So, it is what it is. What's your opinion on SAP? I don't really use them all that much. I've seen them in like some products, companies that I worked for and stuff. But with that being said, it is getting late, everybody. I do need to go to sleep. So, thank you all for joining me. I should be back on stream tomorrow for our regularly scheduled stream. Today was just kind of an extra stream because I was feeling up to it and I'm trying to work through that backlog of content we have. Just remember, Mondays and Wednesdays around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is our usual streaming time. And Sundays, Mondays, and Wednesdays are when we generally stream. Sundays, I try to be a little bit earlier than that. And Sundays are Gaming on Linux nights. I may throw Saturdays in for extra Gaming on Linux nights when I'm feeling saucy. But, yeah, so the next official scheduled day is Wednesday. I for sure will not be on this Thursday, even for a surprise, because I have some local cybersecurity group hangout once a month that I go to with my local peeps. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. Make sure you follow me on all of my socials if you don't see them in the chat. They are in the links in bio. I'm on TikTok, Twitch, Kick, YouTube, Mastodon, Blue Sky. We have a Discord and a Matrix server, so please join them. We have an amazing community. It's been growing all the time. We have great people in there that can help you on all sorts of things at all sorts of different skill levels. And if you're on Twitch, stick around for the raid, but otherwise, I should see all you people tomorrow. Stay safe. I love you all, and happy hacking.
Bye.